Welcome aboard the AM show for another brilliant morning. It's a fantastic Friday, and here we are serving you the finest show on morning television. My name is Benjamin Akapo, and of course, I do this as always with Sweetie Abochi. Now, here's what you can expect on the show in these 4 hours. The news in a bit, followed by the news review. Those who join us, Professor Isaac Bwedi is Dean of the University of Professional Studies, Accra, Faculty of Accounting and Finance. Then we have Ishaq Ibrahim, a senior lecturer, also at the UPSA, but in the law school. Both of them join us for a conversation. And then we get into, well, you know how it is, our big stories. Minority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin says the intended demonstration scheduled on Monday is solely a new Patriotic Party initiative, but a broader national call to defend the independence of the judiciary. That's what he says. He indicates that the protest, which has been endorsed by some other opposition political parties, and we know some of them, the NDP and the LPG and others, will address public disapproval over the suspension of the Chief Justice, Gertrude Torkornoo. But is it all that the Minority Leader is saying, especially with what we've also heard from the GBA? We'll dilate those matters. We'll dilate on them here on the show. I'll also bring you another installment of my blunt thoughts. And today, I'm going to be talking about Galamsey. I'm going to be talking about its impact on our children, especially in mining communities. And I'll also definitely be talking about the president and his order to his appointees. Declare your assets, and yet it appears that is a failing course. I've not said failed, failing course. We'll get into that. Again, it's a Friday. Noella Karin Yale will be coming your way with E-Corner. You want to stick and stay, it's going to be a supercalifragilisticexpialidocious show. So stick and stay with us. The AM show is sponsored by Whaley Properties. We provide quality housing at an affordable cost and with a flexible payment option. Up next, we serve you the news. Let me serve you the news now. And in our first story, the new Patriotic Party has launched an attack on President John Mahama, accusing him and the NDC of orchestrating a calculated plan to undermine Ghana's judiciary as part of a larger bid to secure an unconstitutional third term in office. Speaking at a press conference in Accra ahead of the party and other four political parties' demonstration against the Chief Justice suspension, the party's national youth organizer, Henry Nana Boakye, alleged that the suspension of Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo and the nomination of the 7 appeal court judges are not isolated events, rather a deliberate step in what he described as a broader scheme to pack the judiciary and manipulate constitutional interpretation in their favor.
Therefore, reiterate our call for the immediate reinstatement of the Chief Justice and the withdrawal of his unconstitutional action. The future of our republic, the confidence of our people in the judiciary, and the very soul of our democracy depends on this. Let it be known that the new Patriotic Party will fiercely and relentlessly resist any attempt to hijack our judicial system for any political gain. We urge Ghanaians across all divide to speak out and defend our constitution. We urge everyone to be part of this historic demonstration on Monday, 5th May. We must all be part of this effort. There is this sinister motive by Mr. Mahama to pack the judiciary, to seek a judicial interpretation of the Constitution, which will interpret Article 62 so that he intends to go a third term. This agenda, inshallah, shall fail. Nana Boakye further criticized the appointment of Justice Gabriel Scott Poamang as chairman
of the 5-member committee established by President Mahama to probe the petition against the Chief Justice. According to him, his involvement erodes public trust.
Of Justice Puaman as a chair is inappropriate. Justice Puaman, having authored a Supreme Court ruling directly connecting to the petition against the Chief Justice, cannot be deemed to be an impartial adjudicator on this matter. His involvement erodes public interest and represents a conflict of interest. The refusal to recuse himself, despite the availability of other qualified justices of the Supreme Court, suggests a deliberate manipulation of the process to secure a determination that is already preconceived.
Well, moving on from there, President John Dramani Mahama has pledged his administration's unwavering resolve in the fight against illegal mining, warning that companies and individuals destroying Ghana's forests and water bodies will be held to account. Speaking at the May Day celebration held at the Black Star Square yesterday, President Mahama admitted the illegal mining challenge was far more complex than many assumed. We'll hear from him shortly, but here is General Secretary of the Trades Union Congress, Joshua Ansan, who tore into the government's handling of the Galamsey menace.
We in organized labor are surprised that 5 months into your reign, the Galamsey menace is getting worse. The destruction of our environments, including our forests and water bodies, is increasing with rapidity. Mr. President, we expect you to provide leadership in stopping the menace of Galamsey. We expect your government to immediately revoke, not amend, Legislative Instrument 2462. Remember, organized labor has a letter from your predecessor suspending the LI 2462. Pending its revocation, LI stands as a legal doorway through which reckless mining activities are taking root in ecologically sensitive areas.
The president also assured the country of his government's resolve in ending the Galamsey menace, despite the Herculean nature of it.
Against Galamsey is a complex one. And when I was vying for the presidency, I did not kid myself that when I come into office, I will win that fight in 4 months. Yet, we will not give up. Our gallant men of the armed forces and security services are up to the fight and will continue to score successes against the selfish companies and individuals who are destroying our forests and polluting our water bodies. As far as the fight against Galamsey is concerned, I say, a luta continua.
Now, members of the Nadoli Kalio District Assembly have rejected the president's nominee for the position of District Chief Executive. Mary Haruna secured only 24 out of 52 votes, falling short of the required 2/3 majority. 28 assembly members voted no, effectively blocking her confirmation. Her rejection makes her the second nominee in the region to be turned down by an assembly. So far, none of the president's DCE nominees in the region have received approval.
Mary Haruna was among 8 females who penciled their names for the municipal and district chief executive jobs in the Upper West region. All the 8 failed to make it to the 33 shortlisted candidates from the overall 156 persons who applied for the jobs. Determined and with a feeling that she was given a raw deal by the Regional Veteran Committee, petitioned the National Executive Committee of the National Democratic Congress, NDC, where she was okayed by the committee. The decision of the National Executive Committee of the party ruffled some feathers in the constituency, resulting in deep-seated enmity and creation of power blocks. She was subsequently nominated by President John Dramani Mahama for the position, subject to confirmation from the 52-member assembly of the Nadolo-Keleo district. The tension-filled voting hall was crammed with family members, close friends, NDC party supporters, and laced with a royal touch from the various paramountcies in that district. The stage therefore was set for a showdown between the two power blocks, yes and no campaigners.
So for somebody demanding that somebody should have a note that indicates that they have assigned him to what? To come and stand for what you call agent for no or yes. I disagree to that.
With just your mouth and say that I am a party this agent for this fellow. You go there with a document. Can we produce those documents now? That is what we are contesting.
There's something called observation in life, and there's something also called an attempt to demonstrate knowledge in life. We are not insisting that nobody wants to stand here no or yes. It is just that as a perception you are creating that those of us sitting here intend to change the outcome.
Member of Parliament for Nadolo-Keleo, Anthony Osman Mankara, attempted to down the tension. He appealed to the local legislatures to vote massively to confirm the only female President DC nominee in the region for the development of the area.
For the sake of unity, to do us the honors and give your support to our sister. I had said earlier to most of you that we are ending it. Let's not end badly.
Our Senior Minister, Lawyer Charles Wonga Pozun, also put in a similar appeal. It is not about strength or show of power. We are pleading with you to finish the voting with excitement. It wouldn't be good for us to finish with some bowing down their heads and others jubilating. Mayor Haruna appeared in front of the assembly members with an unusual shaking voice but pregnant with a crisp developmental agenda, eliciting very little cheers from the crowd.
I will be a humble servant. Baraka.
In the end, the nominee failed to garner the required yes votes for the confirmation as announced by the acting Appellate Director of the Electoral Commission, Obrempong, Daniel Kotie Labi.
No is 28 and yes 24. Now from what the guidelines, the nominee is supposed to get, to be able to be confirmed, is supposed to get what? 35. On that note, based on what we just received, she couldn't make it.
Supporters of the two power blocks in the NDC in the constituency left the hall hurling insults and vituperations on each other over the results. Mayor Haruna, however, remained calm and optimistic that she may have another chance from the president for another bout. Reporting for the News, Rafiq Salam, Nadoli.
Now, a group of Burkinabe citizens in Accra have taken to the streets in a peaceful march calling for African solidarity in order to ensure peace, especially in the West African sub-region. Burkina Faso's military ruler, Ibrahim Traoré, suffered another major attempted coup, which men claimed they had foiled. However, tension is on the rise, with many security experts warning of dire implications for Ghana's national security. However, clad in Pan-African paraphernalia, some Burkinabe residents in Accra, together with other diasporan groups, took to the streets to call for enhanced cooperation among African leaders.
A chant for African unity by this group of individuals who say they are alarmed at the escalation of tension in Burkina Faso. The country's military ruler, Ibrahim Traoré, who has deferred Burkina Faso's transition back to democracy, has come under fresh military attacks in the last few days. Monitoring developments from Accra, this group and allied diaspora groups say African leaders must work to de-escalate tension in the Sahel region.
To send it to Burkina, to Mr. Ibrahim Traoré, the president of Burkina Faso, to know that the fight that is in Burkina is about Burkina. This is the time Africans must come together as one people, as one nation, and take their destiny in their hands. Because we don't want what has happened to Kwame Nkrumah, Patrice Lumumba, Thomas Sankara. We don't want that it should happen again to Ibrahim Traoré. We don't want it should happen to any leader in Africa fighting for the goodness of Africa.
Meanwhile, the Burkinabe ambassador to Ghana, David Cabrera, is giving assurances of relaying the concerns of this group to Ouagadougou.
Chaque voix est aujourd'hui compte, chaque drapeau levé, chaque slogan crié, chaque main levée.
All the messages delivered here today will be faithfully transmitted to His Excellency Captain Ibrahim Traoré. On this symbolic day, we affirm loud and clear that the Burkinabe people are standing.
Il sera informé de cette marche à Accra, de l'implication de chaque institution, de chaque association, de chaque citoyen.
Protesters remain hopeful that their gesture of solidarity will spur on unity amongst African leaders.
Let's talk animal husbandry and food self-sufficiency now, as Ghana's poultry industry is at a crossroads with existing farms fighting to survive amid skyrocketing feed prices, deadly heat waves, and a flood of cheap foreign chicken. With government's Feed Ghana program under scrutiny, farmers in Techiman demand action to save jobs and stop a $300 million import drain. Anas Sabit has been speaking with people in the value chain and filed this report.
Ghana's poultry sector has faced a significant decline due to factors like high production costs and the influx of cheap imported chicken. This has led to a large number of poultry farms closing down or reducing operations. The situation is entirely different here at Green Generation Farms, a shining example of Ghanaian resilience. With 84,000 birds and 120 jobs, this farm is proof that local poultry can thrive. But as Administrator Seth Jenfi tells me, survival here is a daily struggle against forces far beyond their control.
Feed constitutes 65% of our production cost. We almost do 10 tons a day, which costs us about 70,000 per day. Because 1 ton costs us 7,000 Ghana cedis a day, because of the capacity of the farm.
Feed costs have skyrocketed by nearly 40% this year alone. A bag of maize now sells at 350 Ghana cedis, up from the previous 260 Ghana cedis. Same applies to soya and other feed supplements.
For the past years, we are buying maize at 265 cedis, but currently maize is 350 Ghana cedis, and the soya also for the past years we are buying it 300 cedis, but now 450. So it means that production costs have increased, and it is affecting we the farmers.
With government launching its famous Nkonkitenkiten policy, which constitutes part of the Feed Ghana program, Seth is optimistic that the farm's capacity of 150,000 birds can be achieved, a move that would help employ more hands and in turn reduce youth unemployment in the area.
So under the Feed Ghana project that our president has introduced, as Green Generation Farms, we are having capacity of 150,000, which can also grow into 200,000 capacity. We want to plead on the government that we should also look to the Green Generation Farms, because we believe that when the government supply us with the Ngoko Ketekete and also the maize, or even give us money to support our business, we can employ more people so that the country will be able to solve the unemployment program in the country.
But the challenge isn't only feed costs. climate change is cracking their eggs literally. Farm manager of Philippine Richard says erratic temperatures are slashing egg production by nearly 25%.
Climate change is affecting production because currently when the heat is on, the birds cannot really survive the heat because birds don't really sweat. So in that instance, egg production really goes down.
Management here have, however, taken a bold step of planting more trees in and around the farms to help minimize the rising temperatures during hot weathers.
Locally, what JGF is doing is that we are trying to plant trees in the farms to make sure that during the heat season, we'll still have a very cool weather for the birds to be able to survive and to be able to drink enough water for production to go up so that we can get what we need.
The difficulties poultry farmers go through do not only end at the farm gates. It affects all, including egg traders here at the Techiman Central Market. Mama Cecilia Opoku-Boateng has been selling eggs for the past 25 years. She says the business is not profitable as it is at the start.
Small-scale farms are now collapsing because of the high production cost. The same price we sell here is what we are given at the farms, so we get virtually nothing at the end. Our profit after selling a crate of eggs is only 1 cedi.
The Feed Ghana program could be a game changer, but farmers and traders here say it must move beyond slogans. They want government's intervention to help reduce production costs.
We are appealing to government to offer support to poultry farmers, particularly with regard to their feed and vaccinations.
The choice is stark. Support local farms and save jobs or let imports rule. The question is, will policymakers act before the last Ghanaian farm plucks its final cry? Well, we can only hope for the better. Reporting for Joy News, Anas Sabit, Techiman.
Time now for our business update. In our first story, banking consultant Dr. Richmond Etiahene is asking the Bank of Ghana to tread cautiously in the regulation of cryptocurrencies. The Bank of Ghana announced its beginning of a regulation for cryptocurrencies by September this year, but Dr. Etiahene stressed that a proper upgrade of the regulatory architecture was needed before the introduction of new regulations for grey assets such as cryptocurrency.
We need to tread cautiously. Even the asset we have we regulated to the best of our ability? Yes. Today, the banks are sitting, those of you sitting here, apart from all the foreign banks, some are sitting on what I don't know how to describe it, non-performing asset. So huge. And this asset could have been diversified to other areas, but they've gone to give loans to some institutions. So let us be aware, the regulatory architecture we need, no matter where you are going, whether it's an estate, whether it's private companies, or whether you're going to cryptocurrency, be mindful that regulations are not there for regulation. They are there to protect. Investors and investing people. So please be mindful of regulation. And we must improve our regulatory architecture. If we want to go into cryptocurrency, don't just hear some Nigerians are doing it, you're going to do it. Have you got the investing in skills?
Yes.
Yes. Upgrading, upskilling. Have you done that? Or you used the old methodology to do the new methodology? So for me, my advice is good to diversify.
Yeah.
It's good to go to higher earning areas. But you must always be mindful that regulation is key and important for the investment space.
Well, responding to this, financial analyst Joe Jackson backed the Bank of Ghana's move to regulate the digital currency, saying that the initiative was long overdue.
Dr. Etiahene is somebody I respect very much, and I agree with on several points, but on this I may disagree with him. Yes, listen, I did my first crypto investment way back in 2005. I've been in the market, I've jumped out of the market, I haven't jumped back into that market yet. But I've seen ups and downs, fantastic returns, and some crazy losses too. So I'm not in the crypto market at the moment. But it is real, right? If you take all the countries in Africa, Ghana was the 5th largest recipient of crypto. And that you cannot throw away. That you have to address. And it's better for it to be regulated. It's better for us to grow in understanding and be able to utilize this as one of our alternative means rather than to say we are not ready yet. I think we are ready. We are more than ready. Listen, we can't avoid crypto. Crypto is going to be one of the alternatives, right? And it's good that the central bank has clearly indicated that they will come out with the rules that will govern crypto. But let's also be clear, right? Crypto, what do you call it? Crypto what? Currency. It is another currency. It may have certain advantages that will make it less likely to be debased like other currencies. But it also has certain deficiencies that we have to look up to. So let nobody think crypto is going to be some silver bullet for investment where you invest and you get fantastic returns. There are going to be risks there. Please, make sure you understand what you are getting into.
It's a wrap for business, and that's how we cap off the AM News this morning. But you want to stick and stay, both our guests join us on the News Review in a bit. We'll be right back. Welcome back on the AM Show. Time now for the News Review. Remember, the AM Show is proudly sponsored by Waylead Properties. Let me ask you, are you thinking of a rewarding investment you can engage in? Waylead Company Limited is your preferred choice for such an investment. Waylead Company Limited is a real estate company with several developments to its credit right here in Accra. We're inviting you to invest in our new development, Willow Lane, where elegance meets tranquility in the heart of Accra. And guess what? We're providing you with quality housing at an affordable cost and with a flexible payment option. At Waylead Properties, we provide you with 24-hour security, reliable power supply, and other social amenities to make your stay memorable. All you have to do, give us a call on any of these numbers, 0240 111 119 or 0504 499 999. You can also get more details at www.waylead.org. Joining us for the News Review this morning, we have our guests seated. Professor Isaac Boadi. He is Dean of the University of Professional Studies, Accra, Faculty of Accounting and Finance. And also from that institution, Ishaq Ibrahim. He's a senior lecturer at the law school in that same institution. Ishaq, Prof. Boadi, good morning.
Good morning. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. It appears nowadays you do the Echebia Fasai nowadays. So I'm going to, you know me already. I'm going to do a little.
What you can do.
But I hear the hats, right? When you put them on, or depending on how you wear them, if you tilt to the right, if you tilt forward, if you tilt to the side, or you pull it up, or you turn backwards, they all have meanings. Do you know the meaning of the one you've done this morning?
In fact,
Hey, Benjamin,
I was not used to this, the hats, until I traveled to the north.
Enough.
Some months ago.
Okay.
I realized that we should project our culture.
True.
So when you go there, you have some of these.
Yeah.
In fact, I didn't know what you said until a friend of mine, during the program that we organized last week, said, Prof, do you know the meaning of this, the position of your hat? I said, no. He said, when you wear it this way, it means you're ready for war.
You've learned well.
Yes. So for me, I'm in for peace. So.
You're in for peace. I mean,
they have different meanings. Yeah. It depends on how you wear it. But for me, coming from the South, they should forgive me.
No idea. And sometimes...
Yes. I think they are very particular about it. I had the opportunity... Indeed. I mean, I'm a northerner from the Wale area, and I also went to secondary school. So as part of cultural dance in secondary school, you'll be taught of all these things, especially when the heart is straight up.
Exactly.
So you can see the president, when he's skiing in the north, or when they skin a chief in the north, the heart is straight.
Or the chiefs,
meaning you are
the paramount.
Only, that means you are the only one in town. You are the chief.
Yes.
So you cannot do that at the chief palace. So you have to be very, very careful.
Exactly.
They say that. But when you turn
it to be as though you were challenging his authority.
Yes, yes.
And that could have dire consequences.
Yes, yes.
So they should forgive me.
They should forgive you.
I'm all easy for
yes. But I think usually they don't descend on you. Maybe if they look at you, know that you don't know.
Okay.
And usually somebody who is a regular attendant at the chief palace, maybe if you do that, then they know you are in for trouble today.
Okay. Yeah.
But if you are just a new person who is coming, somebody will correct you and then tell you the meaning of them.
Where it gets dangerous is where, you know, the traditional voodoo or medicine, it drew.
Okay.
I heard that.
There are some places where if you go and you are even donning some type of batakari, and the hat's positioned a certain way, someone who has, it's said that someone who has those powers would think that you are trying to show off or throw a challenge, and that person will spiritually, you know, try to test you. And all. That's true as well, right?
I heard that, yes. I heard that.
Then they shouldn't try me because...
They shouldn't try you.
I'm
I heard that, but I've always been...
You have Jesus, right?
I've always been skeptical about that. If your faith is strong, I think you'll be fine. Yeah. But I heard that as well.
Right.
But I think we should find a way and project our culture.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's just how many weeks ago when I wore my own green batakari with its matching hat. I mean, we have and so no, sometimes we jettison our own.
Yeah.
It's good to see all of us in something traditional.
Thank you.
This morning. But let's quickly get into our thoughts. I'll start with you, Prof. What do you have? Maybe about a minute and a half. What are your thoughts for us this morning?
Oh, yesterday we rested, not for any other reason, but because it was a commemoration day. And I must say, yesterday commemoration reminds us that we know we honor the contributions of our workers. Whilst we honor the contributions of our workers, we must also confront the systemic challenges that we have in terms of unemployment, inadequate social protections as well, and then exploitative labor practices that's also plaguing our country. Putting our country in a different spotlight. We should be able to address it. And I was happy when the president took to the stage and he allayed the fears of our workers that some entities, some state enterprise will not be privatized. I was happy because over the period, we've been having this at the back of our mind that some of the institutions are going to be privatized. But he then went ahead, and I don't know what happened, that he also said it would rather be PPA. And I'm sure most labor fronts have been divided on these statements. We have to be careful sometimes where we make some type of pronouncement, because I felt that it was just at that point where workers are having a day for us to celebrate their achievements. But that thing was made. So this morning, I had to listen to some of the radio discussions, and it's all about privatization or PPA and all that. For me, I don't have a problem when some institutions are to be privatized, or the state will have some collaboration, especially those that are not functioning well. And the president said it's all about inefficiencies. Not this government only, but several governments. I've been wondering what kind of process they can put in place to help some of the sectors to be efficient and to generate more profits. That'll be my worry. But then when we get another platform, we can have some discussions. On that day, I'm sure our president should have taken the opportunity to have highlighted the 24-hour economy. Which other one again? Jumara. All these initiatives would have been, I don't know whether I didn't listen to the speech, but maybe he mentioned those things. It could have been a very good platform for him to have discussed some of these issues that are yet to be implemented.
Okay, on ECG, I think, at least I also remember that the sector minister spoke about, I think, Ghana Water Company Limited owing them about 1 billion Ghana cedis or so, and that they are going to turn their lights off, something of the sort. But in respect of what you said, if I recall correctly, because yesterday we did it here, there are going to be concessionaires to handle different aspects of the chain, so that if you are collecting money, yours is to collect money. If you have used X megawatts or gigawatts, the institution to measure that will do that. And when it comes to you, you are just collecting revenue, because it appears now ECG is doing all of that together, and things don't seem to be streamlined properly. Then he also mentioned that they are going to get professionals. I've forgotten the exact terminology, but it's not going to be, oh, we sit down and then, oh, let's choose this entity. There will be no family and friends involved. Has nothing to do with the best entity. They will have a selective process, and you'll have a professionals leading that, so that it has nothing to do with maybe the people in the sector or even the government. They select these people based on how the tendering process goes, and then the selections. My only hope is that they stick to this, what they are saying. And I think maybe that could inure to all our benefit. For you, Ishak, what thoughts would you share with us this morning?
Yes, there's a lot of things going on in my mind. And I think one of the most important one is the one my senior have already picked. So I would like to choose another one. And mine is how this one has to do with the impasse or the allegations and counter allegations between the Attorney General and then A+.
Right.
I think in the beginning, when the Attorney General made mention about those allegations around the National Service, A+ made some counter allegations. In the beginning, people were prepared to brush it aside. After a month, the Attorney General responded to those allegations. And then the next day, A+ fired back. And then last night, the Attorney General said he was focused on his job. And therefore, he was not going to, he believed he could have sued for defamation. But because he's going to focus his job, he will do nothing about it. I think we have it is very troubling. Why am I saying that? If you look at defamation, when right-thinking members of society are beginning to think that those allegations is correct, then defamation is made out. Leaving it because you want to focus on your job, I believe as a chief prosecutor for the government will not be very good for us. Because right-thinking members of society are beginning to believe that the A+ is probably right. Because last night, I met some group who supported the Attorney General vigorously. They were beginning to believe that the A+ probably have a point. Otherwise, the Attorney General would have taken him on.
But has a point on what? I want you to specify.
They are believing A+, that A+ is correct, that the Attorney General is a thief, as A+ has put it across. So I think as a chief prosecutor in court, if you do not address this thing properly, and you are prosecuting people you think have done something wrong, and such a person is to challenge you in open court that, listen, if you accuse me of thief, I'm not the only thief. You are a thief as well. Because somebody has made those allegations, you don't challenge them. So I believe it is in order for the Attorney General to go to court, at least on defamation, to clear his name. If you leave it to linger on, I think we are having a problem. The administration of justice can be undermined because of these particular allegations. Because instead of A+ backing off, he's actually firing back. And right-thinking members, as you said, defamation is made when the right-thinking members of society believe what has been claimed to be true. So I think if Attorney General is actually correct that defamation, is possibly he could pursue the defamation, but because he wants to focus his job, that's why he's not doing it. I think it's not right for him to say that, because you're not going to spend all your time in pursuing that civil case. Other people could other lawyers could actually handle it for you. So you're not the one going to just prosecute it. Or you could excuse yourself and let your deputies take on prosecuting for the meantime for you to clear your name. Because elsewhere, if it was outside Ghana, this allegation would have been serious. But I'm not sure why we are not really treating it seriously. Because if the chief prosecutor is to be described as a thief, and that person is very forceful saying, I have evidence, it is not enough to say, bring your evidence if you think you have enough evidence. If it was me, I would test it in court to get my name cleared.
All right. Have you ever been defamed? Now, I'm going to cross-examine you a bit.
Okay.
You're a lawyer. You go to court from time to time.
Yes. Defamation is my area of interest. I teach tort law.
Have you?
Not really, no.
So you've never had...
People have said hateful things, but as you know, some of the defenses is that it's for the heat of the moment.
All right.
So if it is the heat of the moment, somebody says something, I know for sure that if I take him to court, I'm not going to win.
All right. I prefer straightforward answers.
Okay.
You suggested that
yes.
You're beginning to think that...
Right-thinking members of society, yes.
think that the Attorney General is a thief. That was the word you used, right?
I mean, that is a test. I was just laying the legal aspect.
Okay,
I've
so
met people
let me
who
ask
used to defend him.
Like I said, I prefer straightforward.
Okay, yes.
Do you believe the Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Ayine, is a thief?
His response yesterday gave me consent to believe that A+ is correct.
What aspect of his response?
His response is that I consider defamation, but I don't want to do it because I want to focus on my job. For me, if it is myself, I will pursue defamation.
Fantastic point you just made. If it were you, you'd pursue defamation.
Yes.
Pursuing defamation charges or damages, is it obligatory or is it an optional move?
It is an optional, but by virtue of the position...
I want straight answers.
By virtue of the position he occupies,
right.
I think it's much more obligatory.
Do you realize that for a lot of these public servants, there are many instances where, even in the past administration, where people would be defamed? We saw the one recently in respect of Intim Fojo, where he got some damages for some claims.
700,000.
But there are other, things that have been said about him and about others. Is it everyone they pursued just because...
No, it depends. As I said, it's subjective. It depends on the nature of the position you're occupying. This is the person who will be prosecuting people who will be thieves.
Right.
And somebody say you're a thief. So in open court, if somebody was to say that, why are you persecuting me? After all, we are all thieves. You will muddy the waters.
Right.
So by virtue of the position that he's occupying, is where I said there's a need for him to clear the air by going to court. Not just pursuing the monetary aspect. If he doesn't need money.
I'm not even...
One reason why we could go to court is vindication.
Right.
So you need to vindicate yourself.
All right. And we saw that in the case of the Asin, I don't know whether it's Asin South Member of Parliament, James Jachikwesin.
Yes.
Even when there were overtures for him for the AG to withdraw the case, he said he wanted to go forth and prove his.
Yes.
So I get that point. What is the bone of contention? As far as I've read, it has to do with campaign funding, right?
Yes, yes.
Right?
But the current one is, okay.
Which one are you referencing?
There is one that I've read from what A+ is saying that this money is not related to even campaign. Because it was after the election was where he was soliciting for this money to bribe members of the appointment committee to approve him. So it was actually after the campaign. So Attorney General was responding to...
He himself, the AG?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I thought that matter had been put to bed with the Bernard Ahiafo committee and the work that was done after that. I thought, if you followed the proceedings...
Yes.
I thought that matter had been put to bed.
No, yesterday, the A+ firing back with the Attorney General...
So this was what he... No, but I mean,
it doesn't seem to
for you, if you followed I'm sure you followed, Prof, when those allegations were purportedly made.
I've not followed that stuff.
Yes.
Oh, when the ministers were being vetted in Parliament. Yeah. If you followed, do you remember when that issue came up and Bernard Ahiafo had to bring it up, and there was even a committee, I think, that was set up. Okay. I don't know whether it was on the back of that, but then they dealt with it and then invited, I don't know whether that is on the back of what they invited Oliver Barker-Vormawor. I'm not sure whether it was that specific one. But
no, from what A+ said. I know of that one. I remember when he appeared before the committee. Oliver appeared before the committee. Was that the one you were talking about?
Yes, I think...
No, these seem to be fresh allegations. A+ said, not just this allegation, he said he has much more evidence.
My problem with people who keep doing this much more, right?
Yes.
Just like I had with Reverend Intim Fojo.
Yes.
When he said, you remember, he said, even after the matter blew up and there's even more, I'm still waiting for the more.
Yes.
Do you get it? So I think A+, but in any case, A+ is a legislator now.
Yes, and that is what makes it serious.
He's a legislator now.
Yes.
He's made certain claims in the past about having certain information about certain very serious things.
Yes.
If that be the case,
yes,
why not just put the evidence before the police and the courts so that we can settle some of these matters? We also have to look at the other side. Yes, the Attorney General may decide to take him on or not take him on. Bearing in mind as well that the majority, while they have a vast majority, they are hoping to work with the independent group of which A+
they don't need him.
Is a member.
No, in this particular parliament, they don't need
I
him.
premised my point on something.
Okay.
I said, though they have a vast majority.
Yes.
They are trying to work. If you listen to
I understood you, yes.
The majority leader,
yes.
He said that they wanted to be all involving, including even with the minority.
Yes.
I don't know what the thinking is. That's up to him to decide. Yes. But I think if A+ does have all the information that he's speaking of, not just on this matter, he should do the country a great service and put it out. Because I think the talk is becoming...
I agree with you on that.
I also, on this issue of campaign financing, there have been reports talking about how much an MP, very recent ones, spends to become an MP in Ghana, and how much a president is expected to spend. If you juxtapose it with Nigeria and their population, and how much we are spending, it is outrageous, makes no sense.
That is true.
We have to look at political party financing, candidate financing, because indeed influence can come in there, whether from terrorists, money launderers, all kinds of people who will later target a government. And finally, how about Kwame A+ himself and his campaign financing? Who's checking that?
He himself?
Well, it's a good point.
Well, I mean, if you bring it up, we might as well look at you as well. How
everybody.
You fund your campaign? Interesting times in Ghana. So let's, I mean, these are all issues to contemplate. But I mean, when I think through these things, I mean, if there are so many layers, so many angles to look at. And I think it's good Kwame A+ is bringing these things up. We should hold him to the same standards, the same accountability.
I agree with you.
When it comes to...
As the Attorney General said, 278 MPs will be thieves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, at UPSA, you know, we do a lot of programs and all that. We had something on political financing. And I can share with you some of the things that people talked about on that day.
Right.
Interesting. You know, it starts from our students. Politics.
Yes.
All the way.
But right now, the student politics is not student politics. It is NDC MPP politics.
Yeah.
Very true.
It is Tain and Tescon. That's the way it is.
Organizing that program, you'll be shocked the amount of money they invest into this.
Yes.
And you don't know where the funds are coming from.
So you have the candidates, right?
Yeah.
There's an NPP person in there who will be supported by XYZ in the NPP. There's an NDC person in there who will be supported by XYZ. And maybe there may be the others who really can't do the job, but they will not get the votes.
Yeah.
It is those people who have because they have the financial muscle. They have the political muscle because people will come and influence. I mean, we've seen some of these people, even some sort of mock rallies on campus, and it is NDC elements, MPP elements. We've seen that.
Yes.
We should check and have a law passed on some of these things.
Yes. I think we already have laws around those, but we don't have activation. Yes.
Of those laws.
Activation is just the problem. I mean, I'm happy to tell you, I mean, I've run for primaries before, parliamentary primaries before. It's not easy.
Yeah.
The unreasonable demands made on you, it's just...
if you don't have the money, forget it. You will not get it.
It's about the enforcement of those laws.
Yes. It's like harvesting time. Give us now, and then later we'll leave it alone.
And we are seeing even some of that with the president's appointees. I mean, like we saw in the past, do you remember where a DCE or is it MCE nominee had said that you people, you didn't vote for me, so give me back my money? Do you remember? You want the OSP?
Yes.
How many years ago was it?
That's
about
right.
2 years ago.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And now some of the nominees are being turned down. The Greater Accra regional minister had to say that, listen, I think some of you are doing this because you think, these people will come back and make more offers to you, more money and all of that. But in the end, it is what we've turned our politics into. But let's make tracks with the papers we have. Okay. You have a stack of 2, but let me go to Prof first. Is it the Ghanaian publisher?
Yes, the Ghanaian publisher.
Okay, so let's do this quickly, gentlemen. We have about 35 minutes. I want us to maximize that. So give us the headlines, all of them very quickly. Pick 1 or 2 major stories. Okay. Let's cut into them incisively.
Yeah, I think I have the Ghanaian publisher and the story here, TUC to government, ensure living wages reinstate unfairly dismissed workers. And I have one here, UPSA tax dialogue, expert praise SML Ghana's Rex reward model. And then I have one here, a story on page 2. Our hands are clean in year contracts. Zoom Lion, that's the CEO of Zoom Lion. And I have that of current processes for removing CJ unfair. So far, Akufo tells us. In fact, if you come to the TUC, to government, on the living wages, Workers' Day is not just celebration of labor. It's a call for fair wages, dignified working conditions. In fact, the days of rhetoric is over. We demand tangible policies that will uplift every worker, from the informal trader to the former employee. And that's right, because a nation that neglects its workers, neglect the future. And it's important that we emphasize on this issue. Very important. We have our hands are clean in year contracts. I don't know. Sometimes when we have CEOs who are Ghanaians, they often go through some of these challenges. I don't know, but anytime you have an issue in a country, and those issues are bordering on transparencies, borders on corrupt deals and practices, for me, I will not support. But when we are doing this to our local entrepreneurs, we have to be mindful of the extent to which we had a contract between Ye and then Zoom Lion. Zoom Lion, they've been in existence for years. Different political parties, different administrations. They've existed during the NDC 1, NDC 2 or so, MPP 1, MPP 2, and so they are here. Some of this contract, I don't know when it became an issue. We should be careful. I hear it's about transparency, alleged overpricing, and then mismanagement of fund. I don't know, but I have no idea what is happening to this company. It's been in the media for some time. We hope that they operate beyond our borders. And we have to be careful the way we pronounce judgment and we say things about this company. They have other contracts beyond our borders, and people also be listening to what is happening here. If there are issues, we can deal with those issues internally. They have employed a lot of individual members in our country, and we have to be careful how we deal with this. The last story that I'll talk about is the UPSA tax dialogue. We had this program, it was organized by my faculty. It was well attended. We had experts from various fields, the GRA, we had the auditing firms, we had a lot of individuals who attended. It was well attended. We were talking about mainly revenue tax leakages. And Bernard, you agree with me that in Ghana, Benjamin, is about our tax to GDP ratio very small.
Right.
It's almost about, I think, 19 or 18%. What it means is that whatever we produce, 100%, the government gets about 19% or so. In Africa, I think we rank about 9th or so in Africa. It's very small. And the country is more informal kind of nature. We expect leakages, but not to this quantity that we are talking about. In Ghana, we lose. I did a paper in Ghana, we did a survey, close to about 9 billion or so in terms of leakages. And that is worrying, through smuggling, through corruption, and through tax evasion. And it's a big problem. So we had this dialogue, and we came out with the best model that we think can fix the bill and help reduce a lot of leakages. And we want to commend some of these institutions. For instance, we have been told of SML play a major role trying to reduce leakages in our revenue stream. Ghana, we have a lot of issues when it comes to revenue, and therefore, when we see an avenue, we should be able to identify, block those avenues. If other entrepreneurs will partner with the government to support GRA, that's commendable. And that's what we encourage on that day, that we have seen a model, a risk-reward model, that also will help. We have seen that we've had a lot of issues on the contract of this entity. I'm sure we can have a better way of dealing with it. It's the same thing happening to Zoom Lion. I don't know what is happening to our country, that if it's a purely indigenous enterprise, we are hard on our own sometimes. So these are a few things that I can say on the stories that I have here.
Any reflections on these stories?
What you had just read so far. I think the Zoom Lion story is very, very concerning. Especially, it's like we are leaving our vulnerables behind. Even though I know workers in general in Ghana are largely underpaid. But the most vulnerable ones, if you look at most countries, and if also somebody who is interested in human rights, 1966, we signed the International Covenant for Economic and Social Rights, and that urged countries to cushion the poor. If you look at the Western world, they are largely doing it. But to think of knowing workers who receive 120 cedis a month, 150, and then Zoom Lion is just one example that actually we are able to see because some people are interested in this story. They keep publishing it. I saw Manessa Azuri more or less actively on it. And I was surprised to know that they were used to earn 150, which was increased to 250. And I understood now the Zoom Lion is advocating for about 1,300 so that these workers will be paid 400, which I think is not just right. I mean, the main role Zoom Lion is playing is a coordinating role. So the person who will be coordinating, you're not just taking from one person. You're coordinating for all these workers. And you can see, is it your overheads or what is really the issue that you have to take more than 50%?
That is one of the issues, and I'm not in any way trying to defend this contract or Zoom Lion. I am not interested. My only interest is that there should be transparency. And I've actually lampooned Zoom Lion a number of times because I feel it makes no sense to be paying the people in the trenches doing the work, sweeping the roads, waking up at that time. You see people as old as your mother on the street at dawn, sweeping, and how much do they earn at the end of the month? And even what is our minimum wage? You get it? So I'm not trying to defend them, but I think I've heard conversations around, it's not just, getting the people, but it's also about the different logistics, like you said, overheads. What exactly they are, I don't know. But
but if the overheads means that you have to take almost 70 or 80% of the earning, it means you're not the right company to award the contract to. But get somebody who will have...
Do they subcontract? Do they give some areas to other people to work, to other organizations?
I think they engage the
workers. Not that I don't know.
They engage the workers direct.
Is it direct?
Yes. So if you're asking for 1,300 cedis from the government, and you are going to give 400, see the gap. I mean, I have been an agency worker before. I've had an agency company before. You cannot take more than 15%. If you see yourself taking more than 15% of the sum of money given to you, then there's a problem.
But my issue is that...
workers are not protected.
Why do they have to even bring this one to the public domain for discussions?
No, I think somebody got it.
A lot of commentary has, and he also mentions rightly Manasseh Azuri, who over the last how many years has been talking about some of these contracts. I think for the optics, even if not for the optics, I think these matters ought to be looked at. I saw one post of his where he was trying to alert Malik Basin.
Yes. I saw it as well.
Look into some of these before continuing with the contracts. And I think I saw another post or a story where Malik suggested something else, that they were going to ensure that even if they got the contract was extended, people would be paid more, which may also explain now, because I don't have the full facts.
Let me say something.
Which may also explain sums of money being mentioned, but it still doesn't. I remember it still doesn't make sense.
Yesterday, I was actually chatting with somebody, and I said, looking at the minimum wage, it will actually be unlawful. Because it's the minimum wage is almost 20 cedis a day. Now, people should be taking minimum of 600. So I was told it was not a salary or wages. It was actually an allowance. That's why they could go under the minimum wage.
Right.
But the contract, it happened between two entities, the government also and any entrepreneur. So why can't you go back to the drawing board to discuss this issue again than to bring it?
And there's a time to go back to the drawing board because the contract has ended.
Because some people say, but the people who do the work accepted. They accepted to take those sums of money. But that is why any state
Yes.
One of the foremost responsibilities is to protect the poorest of the poor,
That's
the most
right.
vulnerable.
Yes.
So, you see, all of these are, it's pretty worrying.
No,
because if some of the claims are true, then it means we are taking advantage, all of us.
Yes.
Because these people work on behalf of all of us Ghanaians. We are taking advantage of the poorest of the poor. Again, I'm not lampooning any specific entity. I'm just saying that, for me, from where I sit, we must do more work on these things because there's a whole lot that is like gray areas for me.
Yeah, but my challenge has been when it has to do with our own people, enterprises. It's been like this. Other foreign institutions and companies, we hardly will talk about some of this in public. Why do you do this also our local entrepreneurs? It gets to a point that people will not want to set up business anymore.
Yeah.
So we should look at that aspect very well.
Okay, let's get into, would you like to quickly look at your papers?
The Daily Analyst, their slogan is quite interesting, without fear or favor. So the first one, ECG is not for sale. Mahama assures Ghanaians. Organized labor cautions Mahama over CJ's removal. And then GJA honors promoters of press freedom today. The News Center. Zoom Lion renews call on YEA for high pay for sanitation beneficiaries. Minority backs demo against CJ removal. Workers roar at Mayday over living wage. CJ's removal. Worker dismissal. Pension. Wesley Galamsey and Mahama response. So that's the headlines. So in terms of choosing a story, I think the CJ remover, I think they've already done overkilling on this area. But it's still very important because of the comment passed by organized labor and that of the lawyers as well. I think the lawyers have issued a statement on this. And I think the removal of the CJ should actually concern every Ghanaian. This area is really important for a number of reasons. The Chinese have a proverb that only fools learn from their mistakes. For others have made mistakes for you to learn from. So why am I saying this? If you see these constitutional principles of separation of powers is well founded in law, as well as political philosophy. Montesquieu made that point that these three branches, the executive, the judiciary, and then the legislature should be separated, such that nobody should have power more than the other side, so that they can have check and balances. Here is the case. We have a very flawed constitution that has more or less given the power to the president to suspend a co-equal branch, as well as more or less involved in removing him. We can see that this is a flawed constitution. And as I said, only fools learn from their mistakes. Other people have made a mistake. I'm making reference to the Congo. The Congo, if you read what necessitated this crisis, it was a constitutional issue between the president and then the prime minister. The president giving the prime minister the power to fire the president, with the president having the power to fire the prime minister. And this led to Lumumba problem with that of the president. So this area, if we are not able to manage it, I believe our Fourth Republic will be in danger. Why am I saying so? Just with this experience and the way it's going, I believe that if we are not able to resolve this issue and manage to remove the chief executives, it is more or less telling every member of the judiciary is that your job is not skilled. And the executive can remove you at any time. In that instance, we are going to have a very, very weak judiciary. The judiciary, and the Constitution said the independence of the judiciary is assured. How can you have independence when your job is not skilled? The president can have the power to remove you. And if they are able to remove the CJ, it means any other person can be removed.
Right.
So I believe that even though Article 146 made provision that the president may be able to suspend the CJ, and then the president will be involved in removing the CJ. But to have to have the spirit of the Constitution in mind, let's remember that the Constitution requires separation of powers as well. And as as organized labor said, let's do it slowly and let's be aware of the constitutional dangers. Right. And I think that is the point I want to make.
All right, so let me follow up. I love the legal matters because there we get to talk. You're very well aware of Baron de Montesquieu's, theories and separation of powers and everything in between. Interestingly, Ghana is one of those systems where, in fact, in most jurisdictions, you will not have a pure separation of powers. In fact, it's well nigh impossible. And in Ghana, you have a separation that is not a real separation, partly because we have parliamentarians who are also members of the executive.
Yes.
The system we have created, a sort of hybrid. So they are legislators. Our constitution also gives room for appointments to be made from the same legislature, at least a certain quota. So we end up with a lot of members of the executive who are also members of the legislature. As for the concerns about them, I feel we should delineate that. If you're in the legislature, you're in the legislature. If you are a member of the executive, you're a member of the executive.
Very true.
If you're in the judiciary, you're in the judiciary.
Yes.
But as one to me will say, whom am I? But we are here.
Yes.
But then again, you make some points. So my point is this. The independence of these institutions, nowhere is it total. It is never total. There are always checks and balances. There's separation of powers and there's checks and balances of these co-equal institutions or organizations or arms of government. Even the president himself is subject to removal under certain circumstances. And mind you, when I talk like this, I'm not saying the Chief Justice deserves to be removed or doesn't deserve to be removed. I'm just basing my points on what you have said. So too the Speaker of Parliament. Right? But in this instance, let's look at it clearly. Because I've listened to the rhetoric on it, and I'll feed also into the talk about the latest justices who have been nominated. Right? And the whole talk about, they are packing the courts. As for, let me just say it spot on. Anyone from the current opposition who says anybody is packing the courts, I am saying, is being a hypocrite. Because, Ishak, you are aware. What did we not see under the former president?
I mean, the CJ...
From every level of the courts. Circuit to all the levels of the courts. I mean, anyone could sit and make a claim that, but if you want to make this analogy, then let's look at what you did over the last how many years? And then the point also has to be made that if you look at it critically, in law, seniority is crucial, just as in the army.
In the army,
The likes of Sir Dennis Ajay. I mean, someone could say he's one of our Lord Dennings in Ghana. His scholarly works, his work as a justice of the superior courts, and seeing people come, jump him, go to the Supreme Court over time, some of them academics, some of them through the mill. I mean, people would explain to you, some would say, but it is practice. If we want to streamline this, let's streamline it, but let's stop the hypocrisy. Let's stop with the hypocrisy, because some of the people who were promoted over their seniors, people who had been there, established, character, check, rulings, check, everything, check. And now it appears, because you speak to some of the legal luminaries, and they also tell you that no, now certain wrongs are being righted. Some people who should have been sent there, unless you disagree with me, a long time ago, and for whatever reason, whether politics or whatever, were not allowed to go there. And now they are being promoted. So I think maybe we should take off our political lenses and focus on what? Do we need a cap of the numbers in the Supreme Court? Do we need, and it's also crucial, the former AG. It's interesting that the MPP is also talking about this issue, because the former AG, you remember there was a conversation, and in fact, we have that story on myjoyonline.com, where people were talking about the fact that, there are too many justices of the Supreme Court and all that. And he said, no, for effective running of the judiciary and all of that, we need these numbers. So we must be very careful how we go
in terms of my
flow,
thoughts on that.
Because past words will come to haunt us. So if we want to cap the Supreme Court, let us look at it and do it. I have a comment from Reverend Latte, who always speaks on these matters, himself a lawyer. He says, so good morning, say it loud. And okay, so that one has to do with Kwame A+ on some of these matters. He says, the bantamweight NPP parliamentarians must focus on how to amend the constitution to limit the powers of a president to pack the Supreme Court with more judges than embarking on a mass street protest. The mighty USA has 9 Supreme Court judges. Little Ghana has 16 and adding 7 more to make it 23. But the question we should be asking, now who caused them? If we are going to play politics with it, it will go to even 50 and we'll get there.
Okay, let me put my thoughts on that. As I said, our constitution is actually very flawed, and we need to, as a matter of urgency, to amend the constitution. Because the constitution puts no upper limit. And there's also a problem with our judicial system. We don't have a filtering mechanism. Almost every case, you have the right to get to the Supreme Court. In the UK, for example, where I also practice, in the UK, you don't have automatic right to appeal to the Supreme Court. The case that you'll be bringing to the Supreme Court has to raise a very interesting legal point, of which 2 judges would have to look at it to see whether there is a need for this case to get to the Supreme Court. So our filtering system is a problem. It was for this reason that last year, when the proposal was made to appoint additional judges, I was supporting it because of the workload over there. So I don't have a problem with it. And you also make a point about Sir Dennis and other people. I agree with you. For me, when it comes to Sir Dennis, I'm a bit biased because he was my lecturer. He taught me interpretation law. I've had the opportunity
let's even put all of those aside. The caliber of people we need in the judiciary.
Yes.
And how we jumped these people, it is unconscionable.
Yes, I think he has been in the Court of Appeal.
It is unconscionable. Some of the people who have been skipped for others to get to certain levels. If you look at pedigree, years of practice, pedigree, decisions, what they have done, their contributions, and the caliber of people who have jumped them, trust me, there's no explanation.
Benjamin, is that the focus of even our discussions on even? I can understand where you're coming from.
No, so there are 2 things we are discussing. The CJ is on one end.
And then the other one.
And then this one has to do with the recent nominations. We've lumped both of them together.
Okay. Well, matters of law, I don't have so much. But what I'm trying to say is that for this particular, let's look at the CJ, which I think over the months or weeks now, it's traveled for more than, I don't know how many weeks now. It will still be until we have the finality to the issue. Whenever you are taking a decision, sometimes you need to look at the backlash, the feedback you get. There are certain things that you have to be careful when you want to do. I don't have a problem if you want to remove it. Once you follow the due processes, you want to remove the person. That's okay. But the point is that one common action, look at reactions from a lot of organizations. Today, organized
But when
labor,
you speak of organizations, that's where, but you finish.
I'll let you come in. Organized labor questions Mahama over CJ removal.
Yes.
We've had the Sophia Kufu as well. Current processes for removing CJ unfair.
Yep.
I don't go to courtroom often. It's when I have a...
But the processes are what they are currently.
Yeah.
That's as the Constitution spells them out. The same processes that's under which petitions came for Georgina Wood, Georgina Theodora Wood, Sophia Kufu, Enini Yabua, Gertrude Tokonu in the past, under Kufuado, Professor Kweku Azar, and currently as well, with the 5.
Hear the one who is speaking here, Sophia Kufu. You know here.
Yes.
This is unfair.
Yep.
What can I say?
And aside the way the law is implemented, there's a problem.
No, the point I'm making is not about, I'm merely saying that the law is what it has been.
Yes.
As it is being triggered now. The only difference is that we've got to a certain stage where certain strings have been pulled that we've never seen pulled in the past.
See, when the champion of justice falls silent, I said it somewhere. Who will speak for those who once spoke for us?
Anyway.
That's all.
On this matter, I think is there something else you want to add on?
Well, I mean,
because you've spoken about the CJs already.
Yes.
For me, I think the law should follow its course The problem is with the bit about discretion.
Okay.
Though I think technically it's not that much of a problem. Those trying to read between 146,
I think there's a problem
146,
yes,
with all its articles.
296.
No, relax.
Okay.
146, 610, and others.
Yes.
Jointly with 296. And in fact, when I read 296, what does it really say about? It's still nebulous for me.
No, it's not.
When we talk about discretion, when we talk about bias, what's the standard? Does anywhere in 146 or 296 stipulate the benchmark when it comes to discretion? Does it?
You see, I think if you look at
straightforward question, does it?
I think so.
You think so?
Yes, I think it does. You see, when you look at 296, 296 is founded on judicial reviews as part of the common law. It is just a common law which has been summarized to 296. So 146 says that if the speaker, if the president, together with the Council of State, found that there is a prima facie case, the president may. So that aspect of may means that he's called to use his discretion. And 296 then tell us as to how you can use your discretion. So your discretion cannot be unfettered. You should not use irrational grounds as part of the process of making.
Is the president's exercise of discretion unfettered?
I think in this
do you feel he has been
biased? So far what has been leaked tell me that this decision that there was a prima facie case is even irrational.
Is it the president who determined the prima facie case?
Well, they said together with the Council of State. And we can see the legal
we know, Ishak.
Yes.
But the protocols we know.
Yes.
The president gets it. It's like a fan belt. He forwards it to the Council of State. They make a decision. If they say there's a prima facie case, then if he decides that a suspension is in order, and this administration, I think Felix has spoken about giving her time to respond, to prepare adequately, to do the right things, among other matters. So one, step aside so you can prepare yourself adequately to respond. And two, the fact that with such a level of accusations against you where a prima facie case has been established, technically, you shouldn't still be at post. Reflecting on how sometimes when there have been cases against some people, and we have said why is the person, maybe the president should let the person step aside. It's not saying we have determined your case, but step aside. Let's investigate. And if investigations, when they are done, if you are deemed not to have done anything, you resume your role. But if you are deemed to have done something, you step aside. Is there any wrong in that?
I think there is something wrong with that. I've already told you, so far, even though the Constitution insists they must be in camera, so far we have seen some leakages. And those leakages tell...
An interesting point you make. Where do you think the leakages have come from? And to whom?
I think the president.
And to whom would the leakages benefit?
I think it's the president.
You think it's the president?
The leakages are coming from the president. We have seen...
You're saying that for a fact, or it's a hunch?
Well, the probability that is coming from the president is much higher because we have seen some of their foot soldiers or attack dogs gone on TV. I've seen, what is his name? Sami Gemfi. Try to say there was an expenditure issue and that it formed one of the bases for suspension of the Chief Justice and possible to the removal.
You know that was actually on the back of some claims that had been made. And again, I don't want to mention that show, but where some other people had come with some information that nobody should have had. And made some analysis of it, which was why... And I know the particular show you are referring to, which was why then Sami Gemfi also came and said that, but I'm also responding to these issues now because it appears some people have details that are not supposed to be in public and they are putting certain things out to favor someone. So we should also talk about it. In any case, they are not justices of the court and they will not play any part in...
No, they are not, but we know where they are likely to get information from. Obviously, the Sami Gemfi will not be interacting with the CJ because we know that he's the director of communication for the NDC. Aside him, we have heard the director of operations from the presidency, Mustafa Gbandi, who made it very clear that regardless of what, the CJ will be removed and that the EC is next. So without those background information, Article 296 is even much more engaged. Because we now know that the decision is guided by what? Irrelevant matters. Not necessarily the kind of matters Article 296 wanted somebody to use their discretion to make decisions. Because if somebody is already having a predetermined mind, then the person will not even be fair. So I believe as far as the president is concerned, the Chief Justice will never get a fair treatment.
Okay.
Yes, because their mind is made up. They want to remove
Before we look at, just very quickly, whether you think those clauses ought to be changed, right?
Yes.
For the future, because these discussions we are having are not being had in a vacuum. We are looking at the future.
Yes.
You've seen the Salah case, which shaped, decisions moving on. So we have to look at all of them. Let me just read 296, and then you can make of it what you will.
Okay.
Where in this Constitution or in any other law discretionary power is vested in any person or authority, A, that discretionary power shall be deemed to imply a duty to be fair and candid. What is the benchmark for fairness and candidness?
Okay.
B, the exercise of the discretionary power shall not be arbitrary, capricious, or biased, whether by resentment, prejudice, or personal dislike, and shall be in accordance with due process of law. Who determines the level of resentment? Who enters your mind and determines the prejudice or personal dislike? And C, where the person or authority is not a judge or other judicial officer, there shall be published by constitutional instrument or statutory instrument regulations that are not inconsistent with the provisions of this Constitution or that other law to govern the exercise of the discretionary power. This is why I was telling you that these clauses practically, I'm sorry to say this, mean nothing.
They mean a lot.
They mean a lot.
Yeah, I can see.
Unless you put proper regulations underneath them to list a certain
the common law.
Things,
the common
you
law.
will not arrive at what the nature of our politics. You will not get that.
The common law judicial review, as we inherited from the United Kingdom, have had cases on that we can refer to the common law to talk about somebody who engaged in irrelevant material in an attempt to make a decision. Bias, we can understand what bias means. I have just told you that one of the directors of operations at the presidency have made it clear that we are going to remove her, regardless of what. It tells me there's bias. And Benjamin, even a dog knows the difference between being kicked and being tripped upon.
Do you think, let me ask you a simple question before we move on. Do you think when the Cecilia Dapa matter came up and the president in his letter said that he was very sure that her integrity will be proven in the end, do you think that...
I think the president was wrong. Even then, I told people that. You see, in some countries, presidents should not be commenting on live cases.
Right.
You see that in the United...
You want to say something?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
When I have my colleague lawyers talking, I don't need to...
I'm not a lawyer.
He is a lawyer.
I'm only a student of that.
I have to pour water small.
Okay, yeah. I mean...
my good friend, from the beginning, look at the posture of this administration before elections. Comment and utterances.
If you asked me about those public sentiments, including, and I've sat here and criticized those. In fact, you've not mentioned some of them. Johnson Esiedun Ketia.
Yes.
Chairman of the party.
Exactly.
Mustafa Gbande.
Even John Mahama himself.
The problem is that, and of course, it's not good for the optics.
Yes.
It is terrible, that line of thinking, and even espousing it, saying it ferociously.
Yes.
However, in a court of law, the same way emotions don't matter. Those people do not matter when it comes to the final process of determining whether or not there's a prima facie case, unless you are suggesting influence from those quarters. Those people are not involved in the process in any way. Please go ahead.
Ben, these are the reason why we are talking about some of these things today. If I'm not being some of the postures, some of the utterances of this administration before assuming office, they've talked about removing of the police, the IGP. It's been done successfully. Now it's CJA.
Yes.
The CJ is going to be done.
Yes.
The next bus will stop maybe as EC, Electoral Commission office.
There is one of their communicators.
That's the next bus stop, eh?
That's what
one of their communicators, Hamda Sudin, He's the guy who always go to a metro.
Metro.
Maybe he said the CJ is done. Electoral Commission next.
Oh, I see.
Maybe the next one
Yes.
will be my office.
but let me ask you though. There was something that just came to mind. Yes. Are you done on that point? Because there's also the bit about a third term.
Yes, yesterday, the minority.
Which
we can
so you make that point. I don't want to forget. So
you can write it somewhere for me.
Yeah.
But you see, that's why we are having this conversation. If all these utterances have not been made today, we'll not be talking about this. You have right, President, if you want to do anything, you can do. In fact, this man or next man, check the ranking of rule of law. The rankings will come. And some of these utterances and things that we have said in the processes, they're going to have, I don't know whether we'll go up or not. We'll check the rankings. And if you are to review the processes, we have to do that. And here, in fact, I'm only going to focus on what Sophia Akuffo, former Chief Justice, said, that current processes for removing CJ unfair.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I wanted to bring in those two issues. Let's be very brief on these ones.
Yeah.
So a likely third term. You know what's interesting? Because even under Akufo-Addo, there were moves that, some of the packing of the court, I heard saying that he wants to break there and go for a third term. That did not happen. Now these claims have come again. How much truth, how much credence can you give such a claim? And then we can also add the GBA's resolution with 47 people out of...
You see, if it was a country where institutions are very strong, I will not lose sleep over this. But we are talking of a country, our institutions are still very weak. We are talking about a country where the president can remove the CJ. If you think about UK and America,
where the president can remove the CJ.
I mean, the Chief Justice. I mean, the Constitution more or less. I mean, if you look
the
at
president
the
can suspend the CJ.
No, the removal.
No.
The president.
You're a lawyer. Your language must be.
So let me. The president. Yes, the president can suspend as well as the president being active part of removing the CJ. Wow. Because together with the what they call it, the Council of State, with the recommendation from a committee.
Right.
And we see that most developing countries, the president is usually a very strong president. So if you look at it, and also look at what is happening around our neighboring countries, Ivory Coast is a very good example. Look at Alassane Ouattara managing to amend it. One of the reasons why these Sahelian countries are leaving is because of what is happening in our sub-region. These presidents through the ECOWAS, they don't often talk truth to each other. They rumble up each other's.
And I agree with Alassane Ouattara. And again, we have presidents that are too powerful.
Yes.
We have to.
And aside that, look at the utterances of what they call it, the NDCs when they want power. They call him our dear leader. I think we are in North Korea. And they say the supreme leader. All these things can embolden him. And now he's having 2/3 majority in parliament that they can actually do constitutional amendments. But here, with constitutional amendment, Ghanaians were capable of blocking anything. But here, the suspicion is that they are going for reinterpretation.
Okay, so for the sake of time, I want us to make the most of the time.
So the reinterpretation...
I asked you a pointed question.
Okay.
Do you think there is any credibility, any credence?
I think so.
You think so?
Yes.
Prof, do you think so as well?
Well, I don't have any evidence to support that they want to amend the Constitution.
No, not amending. They said they are going for reinterpretation. I think that's what the minority
he's saying that.
Well, I have.
So any amendment that would allow a president to go for it.
No, but the minority was saying they are not going for amendment.
But
they are going for interpretation in the Supreme Court.
Whatever it may be.
That's
knowing this president, I don't think he will want to do that.
He wants it. Okay.
All right. Yeah. So point made on that. On the 47, the resolution of 47 members, so over 5,000 lawyers, thereabouts. Of course, at the conference, you will not expect everybody. I hear those who registered were about 200. Okay. At the time of the vote, there were about 100 people. Many abstained, so 47 voted, out of which, is it 47 that voted, or is it less? But 5 abstained. Five voted no, and there was the vote from the other end. I'll check the details. But what do you I don't know whether you were there. Were you at the...
No, I wasn't there. I was very, very busy.
What do you make of this resolution of this number of people?
I think the resolution supports...
Because it's being said the GBA says...
Well, it is a resolution. I mean, once quorum is formed, if you have the opportunity...
Exactly my point.
If you have opportunity to be there and you didn't go, or you went there and left early, I think, I'm not comparing to Parliament, but I think Abdullah have already clarified that side. So if, assuming a quorum is formed, and whatever statement they say...
Does that form a quorum in any case?
I don't know about it. I mean, when I read the story, I didn't see the details that you are mentioning about how the voting was made up. I just
Xavier Kuja, the PR,
I just knew
spoke
that
to some of the issues.
I just knew they issue a statement. And I think with their statement back in the organized labor, which is usually conscious of reason, we ought to listen. And as you said, I think the first group was the executives, isn't it? People are saying they changed their mind quickly. But we need to clarify that side. They didn't change their mind. The executive opinion is different from the general body. So I think we need to take it seriously.
Are you done with your papers?
Okay, I think this paper is more or less...
so basically the same thing.
Same story. Workers' Day raw at May Day about cost of living. I think perhaps we can talk about Galamsey. Cost of living is over there. Yes. So
and today is one of the areas I'll definitely be looking at because there's a report by Child Rights International, which I've been able to source. And it makes for interesting reading in respect of mining areas and the impact on children, even when it comes to educational outcomes. And how many of them want to go to school. I think, I don't know whether it was Mohammed Nuruddin who was also interacting. We had a story, I think, yesterday in respect of some of them who have now gone to the tertiary level and regret. I think it's called the Galamsey.
I think I've attended one of their forums around the airport residential, I think last year. But I think child rights, we're not actually taking it seriously, are we? I mean, look at, you, for a good example, look at our junction, the UPSA junction. You see police are much more interested in stopping motor vehicles other than the children who are in the middle of traffic begging. And I have had the opportunity of taking a bus from northern region coming to Accra. If you see in the night, the number of children being moved from the Sahelian side to Ghana. I think child rights is not really taken very seriously here. And I remember somebody who was in the mining side. I think the Child Rights International people managed to rescue such a child. And he was telling us about the horrific stories around that area. I think as a country, I know we are economically, we are struggling. But child rights ought to be taken seriously because we have signed the International Covenant on Child Rights, as well as there's also a specific African covenant. But are we really taking it seriously?
Okay. As we cap off the conversation, I'll talk about TD Jakes shortly. Sometimes I also like, are you Muslim or Christian?
I am a Muslim.
You are Christian, right? Okay, so let's lampoon ourselves, right?
Okay.
In here. Of course, that doesn't mean you can't. I just wanted to get a certain, so you can speak from, a detached position.
I'm partially a Christian. My wife is a Catholic.
Great. So the Ghanaian Times, and we are not practicing any sort of, I just wanted to know so that I also get his take on the matter from a different perspective. Will restore hope in workers. President pledges Boku mediation put on hold. 500,000 youth apprenticeship program takes off. GJ honors former Ghanaian Times editor, 23 others for contribution to media freedom. And then Kokoba to resume rehabilitation of affected farms. And finally, integration of evidence-based research findings key to resilient, equitable healthcare system. Professor Akoria says so. You can grab details in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Let me just end with this. Bishop T.D. Jakes, we're being told, the recent incidents that have happened, and he is taking a step back from leadership as senior pastor of Potter's House, and he is handing over the role to his daughter, Sarah Jakes Roberts, and her husband. Of course, it's his, so to speak, his church. But I just read the comments, and it struck me, it's something I've always thought, but I think we should have a discussion. Someone even is talking about family business, the dynasty continues. I have nothing against T.D. Jakes. Is it the spirit leading, or is it the family? Because I see same in Ghana.
Yes.
I bring it to the fore, and I don't, I'm very careful about these things. But if you pass by certain places, you will see people's children now, and they have a lot of pastors. Are we saying that it is only their children who can take over? In other words, are these money-spinning ventures? Are these churches that have become, yes, it's a church, it's for God, it's supposed to serve us all, but it's also in the family, and it remains in the family. Do you get it?
Yeah.
For me, a Catholic, staunch one,
Yeah.
the Holy Father has passed, the cardinals will go into a conclave, and no specific person, some people didn't expect an Argentinian to become a pope.
Yep.
He did.
He did.
Do you get it?
Hopefully a Ghanaian will become.
It's not, that is, let the spirit move. We don't determine. Do you get what I'm saying? Do you find it troubling as well that we are here?
Well,
just briefly on this, and then we're going, Prof.
I don't know whether I should go into spiritual matters and find out whether it's...
Touch not my anointing, like using that.
You don't see this or experience this with the Catholic, Methodist, Presbyterian.
The Orthodox
you don't
churches.
Experience this. That's one thing we should not forget.
Right.
But they are called one-man churches. So what do you expect? It's a one-man business. The business we have is established by a family. Obviously, when a person dies or leaves the scene, another person from a family must inherit. That's what happens. We don't expect to see this in churches because we believe purely by God, an ordained institution.
Yeah.
But you realize that these churches it's not only the leader who builds a church. These churches are built by people, the money that we give to support the church, the growth.
Right.
That's all we do. I don't have a problem with this. I'm very careful making a comment here. If anybody is qualified to a position and the person from all angles qualifies, whether it's a father or a mother of the organization, the person must be there. If the person is not qualified, it's not qualified, it must not be.
Okay.
But then we should not leave room for some of us to speculate and talk about it.
Yes. As you say, this is a very sensitive topic. But somebody like me, my father is an imam in the north. So I don't see myself becoming an imam. So even if it is my father's wish, perhaps it will not happen. But I have other brothers who have taken it. Not that I have not taken it seriously. Trust me, I've read the Quran and then I've studied part of Islam. But I don't see myself that way. But I've got other brothers who are much more interested in that area, to the extent that they've gone to Saudi to study more. So as I say, but it is not something to be passed on from father to son.
Okay.
Let the best spiritual person who can give the best spiritual guidance lead. And if I'm going to pray with somebody, I want to see that the person's emphasis is on the spiritual aspect, not money aspect. Unfortunately, there are some churches, I'm not seeing that much of Islam where emphasis is made on the contribution. So perhaps the contribution aspect is what makes it look like a business.
Okay.
And I think it tends to be maybe Catholicism is not so much affected, even though the Catholic Church is very, very rich. Even though I don't see them emphasizing that aspect. Maybe they have legacy wealth.
All right.
So that aspect we need to remove.
This is where we're going to have to cap off the conversation. Reverend Latte comes back to say, let's be clear that Sifaya Kufu's observation is targeted at an unfair process. The mischief of unfairness can be cured by amending the Constitution. The former CJ was not criticizing the president.
Okay.
And that's what he says.
But
is she not a member of the Council of
State?
She is. She's a member of the Council of State, right? Okay.
So we have a program coming up next week.
Pardon
I
me?
think he wants to say something about a program.
A program coming up next week.
Okay, so very briefly, we have to go.
We have a 120-day assessment of this administration that will be conducted by Institute of Economic Research and Public Policy on Wednesday. So we want to invite people.
At where?
I think the Press Center.
Press Center?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. A very happy birthday to Edwin Ni Odate Nate. You remind me of Odate Lamte. Edwin Ni Odate Nate. My brother, my in-law, my tall guy, and we fool in the corner. It's really good knowing you. happy birthday to you. Congratulations to you on this milestone. And keep doing the wonderful things. Nana told me of some of the wonderful things you've done in recent times. We salute you. Keep rising, yeah? God bless and keep you. And that's how we are wrapping the news review this morning. Those who joined us, Professor Isaac Wedi, he is Dean, UPSA Faculty of Accounting and Finance. Ishaq Ibrahim is a senior lecturer at the Law School of the UPSA. Don't you forget, this show is proudly sponsored by Whaley Properties. They provide you with quality housing at an affordable cost and with a flexible payment option. When we return on the show, we get straight into our big stories. And later, much later, I'll be sharing with you my blunt thoughts. Let me just let you know what I've titled it. Galamsey going gaga, Ghana's educational cha-cha, like gambling. A military banger. And our assets declaration saga, a critical breakdown. You don't want to miss it. Today, this house will be on fire. Anyway, stay. We'll be right back.
Therefore, reiterate our call for the immediate reinstatement of the Chief Justice and the withdrawal of his unconstitutional action. The future of our republic, the confidence of our people in the judiciary, and the very soul of our democracy depends on this. Let it be known that the new Patriotic Party will fiercely and relentlessly resist any attempt to hijack our judicial system for any political gain. We urge Ghanaians across all divide to speak out and defend our constitution. We urge everyone to be part of this historic demonstration on Monday, 5th May. We must all be part of this effort. There is this sinister motive by Mr. Mahama to pack the judiciary to seek a judicial interpretation of the constitution which will interpret Article 62 so that he intends to go a third term. This agenda, inshallah, shall fail. The appointment of Justice Puaman as a chair is inappropriate. Justice Puaman, having authored a Supreme Court ruling directly connecting to the petition against the Chief Justice, cannot be deemed to be an impartial adjudicator on this matter. His involvement erodes public interest and represents a conflict of interest. The refusal to recuse himself, despite the availability of other qualified justices of the Supreme Court, suggests a deliberate manipulation of the process to secure a determination that is already preconceived.
But I have something to tell our respected judges. Some of them, I am aware, we are aware, that are being promised by the NDC government. Today, it is Tokonu. Tomorrow, it may be them. They should listen and listen well. I want all judges in the country to know that their institution is under attack. The NDC government is approaching you, the judges, telling you that, oh, Tokonu does not have a good interpersonal relationship. She is snobbish, she is this, she is that. But I want you to know that if they allow them to use you today, tomorrow they will come after you. Yep. Act collective. Yes. It is your institution which is under attack.
And there you have it. Welcome back as we get into our big stories. You saw Henry Nana Boakye, you saw the minority leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin talking about their intended demonstration slated for Monday, God willing, and that it is not just the new Patriotic Party initiative, of course, the National Democratic Party, the Liberal Party of Ghana, among others, LPG, and I think the PNP, all joining them as well. Mr. Afenyo-Markin indicates that the protest, which has been endorsed by some other opposition political parties, and I've mentioned them, will register their public disapproval over the suspension of Chief Justice, now suspended Chief Justice Gertrude Araba Esaba Saki Tokono. But the question, fact, fiction, has anything been done constitutionally wrong? On the other end, is the judiciary under threat from the executive? Joining the conversation, Dr. Amache Boateng is a political scientist at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, and then we have Gideon Tete, a member, and that was no mistake, Gideon Tete, member of the NDC's legal team. Both of them join the conversation this morning. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Who has responded? Unfortunately, I can't distinguish your voices.
Good morning,
good morning. How are you doing?
I am well. So, okay, I've seen Dr. Amache Boateng now. Gideon, are you with us?
Yes.
All right.
I'm here.
All right. So I'm going to start with preliminary comments, preliminary thoughts on these matters. Dr. Amache Boateng, as a student of politics myself, I know that you're also very concerned about these happenings because they feed into the political landscape and our democracy. What is your basic understanding of what has happened so far in respect of the removal of her leadership, the Chief Justice?
Thank you, Ben, for having me. And let me say good morning to your viewers. Actually, I'm looking at, two of our major institutions in a way affecting one another, the way we know them to be theoretically. Politics affects institutions. Institutions affect politics. At the end of the day, they ensure that the whole system, the political system, the state functions. What is happening currently, to the best of my understanding, is that this whole thing with the government structure, structured into the executive, the judiciary, the legislature, and the idea of their independence, if you like, from one another. But then there's also this other aspect of the existence of checks and balances. It is through these checks and balances that they affect one another, they shape one another, and that's been captured somewhere, that ambitions are made to counter ambitions. Power counters powers. If any of them, in the course of their functions, stray, then the other powers necessarily must come in to check them, to ensure that they stay in line. So what I see currently unfolding, in the case of, the processes in place to, if you like, establish whether the CJ should be, replaced or not, has got to do with these checks and balances. Ambition countering ambition and power countering power. If indeed there's cause for such an action, then obviously it will have to be done. It will have to be occasion to ensure that the Ghanaian system functions well. So this will be, Ben, my initial comments.
All right. Let's look at Gideon. What would be your preliminary thoughts on the developments so far?
Well, thank you very much. Let me say good morning to our viewers. Well, as you indicated, no one has questioned the procedure in terms of the suspension of the Chief Justice. And nobody, and that is why we are all concerned as to why there has to be a demonstration. If indeed the President of the Republic, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, actually breached any of the procedure in terms of the suspension of Chief Justice. I'm sure by now we'll all be against it. But when you look at our national constitution, you see that His Excellency the President followed religiously in terms of the suspension of the Chief Justice. And I've always maintained that suspension does not mean sack. Obviously, if there are allegations against you, even as you as a host, you cannot be occupying that position as a host whilst investigations are ongoing. There's a likelihood that you are going to interfere in the investigations. And so it is normal and standard procedure that once there are allegations against you, it is only proper that you are suspended so that there's no likelihood of interference. The interference may go in your favor or may go against you. And so for it to be a fair report in terms of investigation, it is only right and proper that you excuse yourself temporarily so that investigations are done. So I don't see how, some, MPP, some apparatus, including the MPP, decide have taken a certain posture as if the Chief Justice has been sacked. Where in this country have we heard that the Chief Justice has been sacked? She has only been suspended, which is in line with our national constitution. And once there's a prima facie case against you, the president may suspend you. Now, there's a reason why there's that provision. And that provision doesn't only apply to the Chief Justice. Any office, any public office, when there are allegations against you, you are made to step aside or you are suspended pending investigations. And if indeed investigations come out that you are innocent, you come out for your position.
All right. So those are your initial thoughts, right?
Exactly so.
Yes.
Let me. I'll come to you. Dr. Amachi Boateng. But let me take on Gideon just for a bit. You say the procedure has not been questioned in terms of the law, but 296 talks about discretion. It talks about bias. It talks about resentment as well. Those benchmarks are pretty much nebulous. If you also look at the rhetoric in the past, because we must look at this conversation from both ends. If you look at the rhetoric in the past, even of the president in respect of, the judiciary, unanimous FC talk and all of that, and the fact that it seemed the judiciary under Gertrude Tokonu was abrasive towards the NDC. And now with the NDC in power, wouldn't you say that there is some reason in thinking that she is being targeted?
Have you looked at the petitions that were, it was leaked? Have you read the petitions that were submitted to the president?
I have seen them.
Exactly. You have seen them. Fine.
I have.
And yes, many of them. And so was it NDC people that wrote that petition? One of them is a lawyer and a policeman for that matter. I recall that I was in court at that time when he was treated that way. I was not surprised that he was part of the petitioners.
I've also heard people who say that they were in court that day and the way that person was acting in court was a far cry from what you would expect in court. I'm not speaking for either side. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate and also play both sides. I have also heard people tell me that the actions of that person on that day in court, someone else who was in court on that day, were not befitting of, the courts.
No problem. I mean,
how about that?
We are not here to talk about whether someone was fitting or not. But where I stand, I wasn't surprised that he was part of the petitioners. But he's not the only petitioner. There were other petitioners there. I don't see this as an abuse of discretionary power. I see some of my friends and seniors indicating that there ought to be a regulation. It doesn't require, it is not every, power in terms of discretionary power that you require regulations. This is purely an administrative act. And in any case, you cannot divorce Article 296 from Article 146.
Right.
There's a procedure in the removal of a Chief Justice.
Mm.
You cannot talk about discretionary power without reading or looking at what is the procedure when it comes to a removal of Chief Justice. Right? Don't forget, after the petition, it was the Madam Tokonu was made to respond as her right, natural justice, for all of us as Ghanaians, to respond to the petition. It wasn't that people wrote petitions and they got brought up and established prima facie. No.
Right.
She responded to it. And don't forget, in all that, the Council of State was consulted. The president cannot just get up and suspend Chief Justice. No, they can't do that. No president can do that. Council of State was suspended, was consulted.
Do you think? I want us to accelerate. Do you think the processes for the removal of a Chief Justice ought to be looked at? Sophia Kufu, who herself is a former Chief Justice and now a member of the Council of State, which means that in discussing these matters in the Council of State, she would have had a case, right? And the Council of State, whether it's unanimous or whatever, decided there was a prima facie case, right? But she also says that these processes ought to be looked at again, though she is not criticizing the president, but she thinks the processes ought to be looked at again. Do you think, whether in conjunction or not, 146 and 296 ought to be looked at again to set a certain standard, a higher bar, if you like, for these processes to be triggered? Do you think so?
For me, I don't see why we have to look at a provision because of some, dissent comments from people who are not comfortable with the removal, and most of them are MPP people, and so that is why
let's take out NDC. Let's take out NDC and MPP in this.
We're having. But the point is
please, Gideon.
All those
Gideon. I beg of you. Let's not make this conversation NDC, MPP. I want us to have a legal, scholarly, nationalistic conversation, please. I know you are a member of a certain group, but let's take out the NDC and the MPP. Go ahead.
That is fine.
Go ahead.
My position is that there's nothing to look at in terms of the provision.
Right.
The Constitution is clear. The procedure is clear. I do not see why some provisions will have to be looked at because of some concerns. Because, look, the president cannot just take a decision without consultation with the Council of State. Some people have questioned the Constitution, how the Council of State is constituted, and saying that the president has to appoint people, and those people that you appoint may be politically aligned to them. But the point is that some of them are elected. An election means that the people, the good people of Ghana are those who elect some of the members of the Council of State, apart from the appointment. And so everything is, I don't see any issue.
I'll come back to you shortly. I'll come back to you shortly. But even on that very point, Dr. Amache Boateng, do you think the way we have our Council of State, elected or not, do you think we ought to take a second look at it? And do you think, because in the past we have had certain stalwarts of this side and that side dominating the Council of State, do you think the Council of State can be weaponized? Do you think so? What do you think, Doc?
Ben, I talk about politics and institutions. The problem we have in Ghana is not our institutions. It's not the way the Council of State has been structured to be put in place. The problem is you and I, the interest with which we go into politics. The problem is our politics. We are a people rigidly divided. No constitution will be able to sustain if we don't really do one thing. We all have interest, but we should have a national interest that as much as possible, many of us will want to, relate to and be guided, by. We don't do that. Everybody is an interested actor, meaning that everybody, acts in one or another way, consciously to ensure that a particular political tradition prevails or otherwise. And to the extent that we behave that way, I mean, no constitution will be able to accommodate that thing and allow peace to prevail.
Right.
In fact, that's to me one reason why we are not delivering, economic goods for the people.
Right.
Fourth Republic so far appears to be doing well politically. Economically, we aren't getting anywhere. It's simply because of the interest, which necessarily drives politics. Interest drives politics wherever we find ourselves. But everywhere they are also guided by the national interest, and this is missing in Ghana. Yes, the Council of State can be weaponized given our politics.
Though we elect them the way we do, it can still be weaponized.
It can be weaponized. It can be weaponized, actually. It can be weaponized. And it will be an interesting thing to make this an issue at this material moment. We have stayed with it all the time. That is why the former CJ's case fascinates me. Her ladyship, Gloria Kufu, also, that's her first name. Because, when did it occur to her that we need to take a second look at the procedures, about the removal of a CJ? When did it occur to her? Is it just now? Has she been around all the while?
And in fact, during her time, there was a petition against her. So what is this now coming to mind? I'm just along those same lines.
Yeah. Why now? So we can't do that. We can't talk about reviewing those procedures now. We can't talk about the possibility of the Council of State being weaponized. Now we can't do that. We stay with it for how long? Intellectuals have, scrutinized our constitution. I've read several, works by Professor Kosi Prempe about the need to reform our constitution and stuff like that. The politicians have stayed with it all the while. So I think, we should allow the system to unfold as it is.
We should allow the system to unfold as it is. But I know you're not a lawyer, but if you look at some of the discussions that have been had, there are diehards who say there's nothing in the Constitution that has been flouted. And they'll point to the legal instruments. But there are some others who will also say, but at the same time, you must exercise this discretion in a certain way. My question to them is, where in the Constitution, 146 or 296, is this discretionary bar stipulated categorically? That's my problem. It's like going to court and trying to prove someone is a witch or wizard. How do you prove it? You see, that's the problem. What do you think in terms of that divide? Do you see any things that could be going wrong? Some, for example, point to the fact that, look, a whole chairman of the party has passed comments which may be seen to be, what's the word I would use? Which may be seen to be biased, for lack of a better word, in respect of the CJ, that other stalwarts of the party in power have also said same, and that affects the process. And others will tell you, but those people don't engage in the legal processes that would lead to either the suspension or removal or retention of a Chief Justice. Where do you stand on these matters?
Man, you see, initially when I talk about politics and institutions, I have these issues, at the back of my mind. Those comments will have to be examined in the context in which they were made and the basis that, the individuals use in making the comments. So what has been the behavior of the judiciary until now? How has our judiciary been, if you like, constituted? This packing of the judiciary that I heard the MPPs
and we'll get there. We'll get to that point. The packing. We'll get there.
This packing of the judiciary. Some people also made mention. Accused Nana Addo of packing the judiciary. I saw something on social media indicating the number of people that the presidents so far in Ghana have, if you like, supervised over their inclusion into the judiciary, and you are not mistaken that Nana Addo really has had a lion's share You know, when all of us saw that there was something palpably wrong, terribly wrong, with the inclusion of a politically exposed person into the Electoral Commission, we all cried out. NPP kept quiet as a party. They kept quiet. When some time back, the opposition of the day pointed out that Ken Ofori-Atta was mismanaging the economy, the NPP initially came on board, retreated, and then they folded up. Have they been acting in the supreme interest of Ghana, at least in the past few years? If the answer is yes, then we can take whatever submission they come up with now seriously. If the answer is no, then we rubbish it. They are being political. They are simply indicating that they have an interest in certain individuals continue stay, in the judiciary.
And so with the Chief Justice as well, you think it's a play out of interest. Some people feeling this person is for us, and if this person goes, our interest may be affected. Is that what you think is at play?
I'm analyzing the behavior of the NPP so far as the demonstration of their interest for Ghana, allowing the Ghana thing to guide some of their actions, and then linking it to this one. And my conclusion is that, yes, that is what is playing out. It is interest that is playing out. It is interest that is playing out. The way they didn't support Ghana in the past few years over certain critical issues that were palpably wrong. Ken Ofori-Atta's case, eventually, he was taken out, indicating that NDC got it right at the time. They came up with the issue. Somewhere along the line, the same MPP, when they replaced the majority leader of the day with the current minority leader, the party was sort of divided. They came public. I saw it. The Honorable Joe Osei spoke. And then they folded up once again. Once again, they sacrificed the party's interest as far as that issue was concerned, because that was the initial reaction that one would want to say that came, like an economic sort of reaction. And that turns out to be the genuine reaction. So when people behave like that, you can't trust them.
Okay.
So their position now to me is hugely political. It's interest.
It is interest.
They are biased in the way that they are going about this particular issue.
So the NPP, the minority, you, from where you sit, if you are looking at precedents, how they've acted in the past, you feel that they rather are being overly biased and it's about their interest in this matter.
That's the point I'm making, Ben.
All right. Let me, just hold for me, I'll come back to you. Let me bring Gideon back into the conversation. You make the point that, look, this is nothing new. It's the Constitution taking its course, like a river flowing. It's the course of the river, and the river is running its course. But at the same time, in the past, there have been investigations against, or petitions against, the likes of Georgina Theodora Wood, Sophia Kufu herself, Justice Enini Yeboah, and in the past, under Akufo-Addo, Gertrude Araba Esaba Saki Tokono. And none of them was suspended. The Constitution says the president may suspend. How do you feel about that in this regard? Why is it that it's only now that a Chief Justice, yes, a petition, prima facie case, is getting to this point? Because in the past, it never got to the point where a prima facie case had been established. But once it's established, this suspension, is it political?
In the case of Madam Georgina Wood, how did it end? Okay. Was the president interested in looking at the matter? Or he felt that to him, he wasn't going to look at it? We have to look at the situations, differently.
I don't get the point you're making. Elaborate further.
You mentioned names of Chief Justices, and I'm asking you, in the case of Madam Georgina Wood, Was the president actually, ready to look at the matter? Or he felt that that was not the time?
The point being that in all of these instances, no prima facie case was established. It's only now that we have a prima facie case being established.
And who establishes a prima facie case? Is it the president?
I have never said so.
Exactly. So yes.
But he does it in consultation with the Council of State.
Yeah, so it comes to the fact that the president doesn't establish a prima facie case. You brought a petition to him. He has received it. He is supposed to receive the petition. When he receives it, he is supposed to refer it to the Council of State. Right? Now, he's also supposed to call on the party that is being alleged to have done ABC to respond to the petition. He has done that. After that, a prima facie case is established. He's not the president. The president has no hand in terms of establishing prima facie case. He has only indicated that there's a prima facie case, and he may suspend you. But I'm saying that there's a reason behind suspension, and it's not just for the Chief Justice. And I'm saying, Ben, you as a host, when it is alleged that you've done something ABC, God forbid anyway, you are likely to be made to step aside or suspended so that you don't end up interfering in investigation. The investigation is not, it may go in your favor or not in your favor. But the point is that in the event it goes in your favor, whilst you are there, it will be said that because you were still occupying the position, you have interfered in the investigation. I don't see how this should be an issue. That is why you didn't want me to talk about you didn't want me to look at it at the political eye. But I'm glad that Doc has indicated the political eye on this matter. Suspension doesn't mean sack. Suspension is just to make sure that we are having a level playing ground in terms of investigation. If Madam Tokonu is still in position, functioning as a Chief Justice, it comes out that the investigations indicate that she is innocent, there may be a call that she has interfered in the investigation. If also she's still in position and it established that she's found, it is indeed true that the allegations are true, it will also be indicated that perhaps there has been some interference.
All right, I get the point. On the point of
it is everywhere.
All right,
you cannot be occupying a position when there are allegations against you. It's simple.
Right. That point has been made. Let me ask you, though, on the back of the rules of natural justice, you have to listen to the other side and do a host of other things. Do you feel it is fair that members of the NDC, senior members of the NDC, have made public pronouncements on the matter, some even suggesting that the CJ must go and that she will go? How do you think that looks for the optics of it? Because it could even be a purely legal process. But when this kind of rhetoric comes in, how do you think it impacts the general psyche and lays the foundation for wrongdoing maybe in the future on the back of tit for tat or, you did this, so I'm doing that? What do you think?
Well, the fact that, some national executives have made such comments does not mean that the procedure must not be followed. Yes, some people may say that it doesn't help.
I want you to hit the nail on the head. Do you think it is right that those pronouncements have been made?
For me, I don't think that there's anything about right or wrong here. This is an opinion by someone. Yes, but we are not doing cross-examination here.
I see.
This is This is an answer from someone or for some people who are not lawyers and don't have any legal background. And so when they make such comments, you can't say that, well, because they make such comments, it means they are right. The question is the procedure being followed? Has there been any breach? If there's no breach, then then there's no need to be making noise and be going on some unnecessary demonstration over a matter where we all know the procedure. We all know the procedure in terms of when there are allegations against the Chief Justice. And I repeat, suspension doesn't mean sack.
Let me just make this point. Reverend Latte sent it for you, and I'm going to just shoot it to you. He says, good show. 296, on 296, discretionary powers must be established from common law. Where does Tete, that is you, where do you stand on this view? What's your stance?
In terms of discretion, well, discretionary power, well, they've indicated, it has been indicated that it must not be arbitrary and all that. I don't see how the power has been used arbitrarily. And you have to marry Article 296 to Article 146. You cannot divorce it and do your own interpretation. It doesn't work that way. And that is why, in this case, if a prima facie case had not been established, there would have been no suspension. There would have been no suspension. But a prima facie case, and that is the ground. That is the ground for the president to decide whether to suspend or not.
All right. Doc, this planned demonstration, what is your position on it?
Well, in the first place, some people would like to exercise their political rights, and it's good that Ghana has room for that. Everybody needs to be heard, you know. So one, it's something that is good for the system. In fact, it's good for Ghana's democracy. And then two, when people go public, you know, they really exercise or take advantage of the opportunity to lay their position on crucial issues, you know. So it's going to be captured historically. At the end of the day, if they were right or wrong, you know, and like I just said, that whatever it is, the motives will be established at the end of the day when the dust settles. And if the case goes through adjudication and proper evidence produced and a final determination made, then Ghanaians can, you know, do a review to tell whether the whole thing was political or not. But you see, given the nature of that particular office, the CJ, the office of the CJ, you know, the office itself should have integrity. The office itself should have integrity because the office supervises over the administration of justice in the whole country. So that if the occupant of the office does anything untoward that affects this integrity thing, definitely that officer would have lost it and will have to be replaced. So people, you know, making the call will have to balance their call. I think they are exercising their right, you know, demonstrating, but it does not necessarily mean that they are going to sway everybody along with them.
On the last point I want us to look at, and we have just about a minute and a half each to look at it, the packing of the judiciary. I remember under President Akufo-Addo, there was a lot of talk about that, and we are adding too many. We are doing this, we are doing that. But they said it was what was needed. In fact, when it came to the Supreme Court, the former Attorney General said, appointment of more Supreme Court judges will ensure effective justice delivery. That's what he said then. Now, there have been some nominations, and some members of the bar will also tell you that there were people who were jumped when they deserved. They had the credibility, they had tenure, the number of years they had practiced law, the number of years they had been judges in their favor, and yet people who were many times their juniors were promoted above them. Then there is Reverend Latte's comment on this. In reflection of what has been said, he says, the bantamweight NPP parliamentarians must focus on how to amend the constitution to limit the powers of a president to pack the Supreme Court with more judges than embarking on a mass street protest. The mighty USA has 9 Supreme Court judges. Little Ghana has 16, and adding 7 more to make it 23. And I say that if we continue like this, maybe we could even have 50 if we want to play the political ping pong. That'll be my final question for you both. What do you make of it, Doc? And then I'll take Gideon, and it's a wrap.
Then it's the same politics, it's the same interest. They don't care about Ghana. They want to ensure that structurally they are safe, whether in office politically or not. They don't care about the outcome. That is why that wide disparity between the size of the U.S. Supreme Court and that of Ghana.
Okay. For you, Gideon?
Ben, you said the former AG said is to help promote what? Effective justice delivery, eh?
Right.
So, of course, so if he's saying so, there's no problem with also, adding 7. Definitely, then it means that there has to be, more of effective justice delivery. But the point is that once it is within the power or it is within the constitution and is done in line with our national constitution, I don't see where the problem lies. If there ought to be change, then there ought to be change in terms of the provisions of the constitution. Until then, anything that is done in line with our national constitution is constitutional.
Let me just ask you this in passing, that's it. Will there be any attempt by this president to tweak the constitution in any way so that he can get a third term?
This matter has been addressed. There is no way President Mahama is going for a third term. But the constitution is clear. He says that you only have, 2 terms. There's no way President Mahama is even thinking, he has not even thought of it, and it will never going to happen, that he wants to tweak the constitution for a third term. For what? I mean, I don't think he's going to do that at all. We've stated that, we've stated this our position clearly in terms of the noise from the MPP saying that we have plans to no, I mean, for what? You see, that's the point I want us to understand, that the MPP are only doing this because they have an interest and not going to help anyone. This demonstration is highly unnecessary. And look, the point is that they have the right, every Ghanaian has the right to demonstrate, just as every Ghanaian has the right to go to court. And I don't want to use the word that my national chairman said, any idiot can go to court. Same applies for demonstration.
You're using it.
I don't want to use it. I don't want to use it.
All right, thank you.
But that is it.
Thank you.
That is
Thank
it.
you very much.
So basically, once it is everything, every step we have taken.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining the conversation. Reverend Lati snuck in a last comment. He says, my learned friend Gideon is running away from constructing and applying May, the question I posed to him. The fact that prima facie was established, the president must exercise his discretion to proceed. I am saying that the discretionary powers must be established in common law. That is what Reverend Lati, a lawyer himself, says. Those who joined the conversation, Dr. Amache Boateng, a political scientist at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Gideon Tete is a member of the NDC's legal team. He also joined the conversation. Still to come, I'll be sharing with you my blunt thoughts in a bit, and I'll just repeat. I've titled it Galamsey Going Gaga, Ghana's Educational Cha-Cha, a military banger, and our assets declaration saga. A critical breakdown. Don't you forget, this show is proudly sponsored by Waylead Properties. I'll be telling you more about them after the break. I'm sure it's time now for me to speedily share with you my blunt thoughts. And today I've titled it, Galamsey Going Gaga, Ghana's Educational Cha-Cha, a military banger, and our assets declaration saga, a critical breakdown. Galamsey Going Gaga, Ghana's Educational Cha-Cha, a military banger, and our assets declaration saga, a critical breakdown. Why am I saying Galamsey is going gaga? I'll be telling you about that, not to specifically point to this current administration, though there are problems. And why am I talking about cha-cha gambling, for those of you who don't understand, with our education? It's on the back of the same Galamsey and what Child Rights International has been sharing with us. So come with me. Come, let's go to the slides. I want to start from something that really got me upset. This alleged attempt to abscond with seized Galamsey excavators. And of course, media monitoring brought that to us. Our very own Erastus Asaridonko was on it. I can't for the life of me understand. I know there'll be pockets of influence and all of that, but how did that whole thing happen? How? The event occurred at the office yard of the Ashanti Regional Forestry Commission. Forestry Commission. Armed individuals. Armed individuals claiming to be national security operatives seized 5 excavators previously confiscated from illegal miners. To what end? On whose orders? The Forestry Commission officials were overpowered during the seizure. Follow the narrative. And then the excavators were returned shortly after, reportedly on orders from a higher political authority. Who this higher political authority is, we don't know. Thank God for that higher political authority. But how could this have happened on the blind side of the authorities for purported national security operatives? And that again takes me back to the thing I've been talking about. Nowadays, you can meet, someone comes to you and, oh, I'm a national security. How does the person even prove it? We have all these political influences in there, but this was an insult to all of us in terms of the fight against Galamsey. Why would you seize excavators? And this administration has been clear on what it will do with them, whether it's garried or drip, and what it will use them for, if not burning them. And someone comes and says, I have to take them away, until a higher personality or whatever says, take them back. Why? This is not the fight against Galamsey that we want, Mr. President, and we have to be very careful how we tread on these matters. Thank God they were returned. But the entire process that even allowed this to happen is a great source of worry. Let's go to the next slide. But then, and I must salute Bright Apia for sharing with me. I requested that he share with me their latest report, and he generously did that. The share of children not enrolled in schools across Galamsey areas. You see, I'm tying that into the conversation because guess what? If you look at children aged between 5 and 12, 35% of them are not enrolled in schools on the back of Galamsey. 82% of those between 13 and 14, 83% of those between 15 and 17. This problem wasn't created today, but it is a problem that is with us today. How do we solve it? Next slide. Again, the report reveals school principals speaking up on the drop of children's enrollment. He says, illegal mining has had a major impact on school attendance. Many of our students are dropping out to work in the mines. They see it as a quick way to make money and help their families. Look at the thinking and where we've left our children, whom per the Constitution we should be protecting. Instead of going to school, they are going into the pits, the trenches, to mine, to make a living. Next slide. Then a 16-year-old comments on working in the mines. He says, I left school 2 years ago to work in the mines. I wasn't learning anything that I thought would help me earn money, and my family needed it. The money we make isn't much, but it feels better than staying in school with no clear future. Ghana, how did we get here? Children see a future in a pit where they could die, rather than a classroom where they could shape the future. Think about it. If you go to the next slide, the health threats to children in Galamsey-prone areas, and we've seen children born with all kinds of deformities. Pneumoconiosis, dermatitis, malaria fever, typhoid fever, STDs, and tuberculosis. It's quite a cocktail of illnesses we are bequeathing to the young ones, isn't it? All on the back of Galamsey. Next slide. But I also want us to take a look and find out whether what we are doing will reap any results for us. Because guess what? Go as far back as Rawlings, even before 1992, and up to this point, and it appears it's like a fan belt. We've been going round and round the same points. Like Henry Ford says, if you keep doing the same thing, you keep getting the same results. If we keep doing the same things, how can we expect different ends? President Rawlings in 1989 started an initiative, small-scale gold mining law, then military intervention to deal with illegal miners. At that time, you could say it wasn't as pronounced as now, but it didn't really achieve the goal. J. Kufuor in 2006, Operation Flash Out, nationwide military operation. Illegal mining actually flashed out, you know. Next slide. John Mahama, 2013. And sometimes we think it's just starting now. It's not starting now. 5-member interministerial task force to clamp down on illegal miners. And they could see saying, and they Nana Akufo-Addo, 2019 to 2021. I will put my presidency on the line. 64-member Galam Stop Task Force and Operation Vanguard Team, military operation, that is Operation Halt. In fact, in this period, what even kills me is how much we expended on fighting Galamsey, and yet, we really have to take a second look at this purported fight against Galamsey. Seriously. We can't keep throwing good money after nonsensical programs. Next slide. Moving away from there, and this feeds into that as well, Ghana's democracy and politics. And let me just make this point. We seem to be celebrating a lot of, people talk about Ibrahim Traore and, some of the things are fake. Let me just put it there. Some of them are not true. He's doing some good things. I'm proud of some of the things Ibrahim Traore has done. But one, I never support military interventions in politics. Never. Not under any circumstances. I may talk about the dangers of democracy, but never military intervention. And thankfully, Major General Emmanuel Kotia was recently saying that the military is totally not interested in anything like that. And two, the tendency to abuse power is high when it comes to military regimes, which is why we must forestall that. And three, while there may be good things, there are a lot of bad things and serious problems Burkina Faso, our neighbor, is facing that we are not talking about. So you see those clips on YouTube and TikTok, and a lot of them are actually not true. But there are some truths in there. There are some that are true. We should celebrate those. But those that are not true, let's not glamorize military interventions. Having said that, Ghana's democracy and politics, preference for democracy, people's perspective, we should be very careful as a country. And that is why some people say that this administration must be very cautious, because if they fail in certain regards, it would be a very slippery slope for our democracy. If you look at the trajectory, the Afrobarometer report, 2013, preference for democracy, people's perspective. In 2013, 82% said they favored democracy. In 2022, it fell to 75.9%. In 2024, it has fallen to 72.8%. Do you see the decline? Next slide. Let's go to the next slide, please. If you go to the rejection of military rule, now the rejection, the counter, the rejection rate in 2013 was 86%. In 2022, it fell to 68%. Now it has fallen to 62%. Do you see what is happening? People are beginning to think that military interventions in politics are good, thanks to some of the nonsense that some of our political leaders bring to bear. And I will always insist, in Ivory Coast, what Alassane Ouattara did for that other term, which the likes of Akufo-Addo and others in the sub-region did not speak of, is part of why we are seeing the shake-up in the West African sub-region. And we must speak up about them. Next slide. Next slide. Now, the armed forces should never intervene. People's perspective in politics, that is. 2021, 2023, 55% said so. In 2024, look at how it has fallen. Look at that. 8 percentage points. We are on the precipice, on the cusp of disaster if we don't take care. Next slide. Armed forces to seize power if government abuses it. And this should be seize, S-E-I-Z-E. Our apologies for the spelling error. In 2022, 40% said, if the government abuses power, seize it. In 2024, it stands at more than 50%, 51%. It's not a joke. But where we are going to end all of this, the asset declaration regime, which I have said is pretty problematic in our country. I was talking about it yesterday. But look, the president said recently, I have had the chief of staff send word to all appointees to ensure that they declare their assets by the end of the first quarter of this year, that is by 31st March 2025. 31st March. I wish to stress that any appointee failing to meet this deadline would face severe sanctions, not excluding removal from office. Next slide. Next slide, please. Appointees who have defaulted, presidential staffers, at least 8 of them we know so far. Next slide. Nathan Kofi Boakye, Director of Operations, Date of appointment, January 15. Seth Tekbe, former finance minister. Presidential advisor on the economy, January 21, 2025. Nanaya Jantua, presidential staffer, January 2021. Samuel Ofosu Ampofo, policy advisor, political, January 28, 2025. Their dates of appointment. Next slide. The appointees who have defaulted, and this is just not an exhaustive list. And again, pardon the spelling of deputies here. Appointees who have defaulted, ministers and deputies, 4 regional ministers, 5 sector deputy ministers. Next slide. Then appointees who have defaulted in terms of ministers and deputies, and the names of some appointees. Ernest Boja Jemfi, Deputy Minister Defense, March 12, his appointment. Alhassan Sueni, Deputy Minister Roads and Highways, March 12. Rita Odolesowa, Deputy Minister Local Government, March 12. John Dumelo, Deputy Minister Food and Agric, March 12. Charity Gardner, Ahafo Regional Minister, February 7. A lot of these people here are people that we engage from time to time, people that I could even call, I don't keep politicians as friends, but people that I could say are, comrades in a way. But the truth is the truth. And it is what it is, Charlie. It is what it is. So, looking at what is happening, appointees who have defaulted, heads of state-owned institutions, you have 38 persons, state-owned institutions. And you're also looking at the IGP. Let's go to the next slide. Anthony Kesapong of the GRA, January 21. He had enough time. Christian Yono, Ghana Police Service, IGP. Dr. Adam Bona, National Commission on Small Arms, February 19. Professor Ernest Kofi Davis, GES, February 3. Julius Pepena, ECG, February 12. Maba. I mean, the Constitution is clear. You know what to do. Why are we not doing them? Adain, what do we have to hide? I'm not saying that necessarily people are not doing it because they have something to hide, but maybe we should enforce that if you've not done it, because if you read the letter of what it says on this, what the law says, then probably if you've not done it, you shouldn't even take office. Probably. Maybe we should get there so that then people are compelled to do it. But Mr. President, you said, and Daniel Domelevo is trying to hold your feet to the fire, which justifiably he should. You said that there could be consequences for people failing to do the right thing, even including removing them from office. It may not get there, but Mr. President, you must hold your appointees accountable. And if they've not declared their assets, the right thing must be done. We can't continue like this. Let's go to our final slides in there. However, one of them has mentioned, and he put up a social media post, Boja Jemfi, showing his receipts from the Ghana Audit Service and saying that they should update their records because he has done it. In fact, in that post, he says, Dear the Fourth Estate, you have made a false publication about me in your story on assets declaration by appointees of President John Dramani Mahama. For the avoidance of doubt, I filed my assets declaration with the Auditor General on the 28th of March, 2025 at 4 p.m. And I have the official receipt. It goes on and on, but that is the thrust of it. So it is only fair that for him, we also put that out there. The right things must be done. Simple. Let's go to the last. I believe there's a final slide, 2 of them. So what the law says, a person who holds a public office mentioned in Section 3 of this Act shall submit to the AG a written declaration of all properties or assets owned by him or liabilities owed by him, whether directly or indirectly. The declaration shall be made on the form provided in Schedule 2 of this Act. It shall be the responsibility of the officers required to make the declaration under this Act to obtain the forms from the office of the AG. The final slide, which has point 4 on it. Shall we do the final slide? The declaration shall be made by the public officer before taking office. Before taking office. Before taking office. At the end of every 4 years. And at the end of the term of his office, and shall in any event be submitted not later than 6 months of the occurrence of any of the events specified in this subsection. We have all the fine laws in this country. It is implementing and following the laws that are our problem. My name is Benjamin Akapo. Thank you for joining me for my blunt thoughts today. And as always, I have served it raw, hot, and edited, undiluted. God bless Mother Ghana and make her great and strong. It's time now for our Citizens Microphone. We take you to Kumasi for an update on the KMA's decongestion of the Central Business District. Joining us, we have Nana Boakye Yadom, and he is reporting from Edum. Nana Boakye, over to you.
We are live from the Central Business District of Edum in the Ashanti region, Kumasi to be specific. And for some days now, there have been talks about decongesting the market to make sure that every activity that goes on here is done without pressure in the market. In fact, lessons have been learned from the fire that engulfed the Edum PZ Arena and then the Blue Light area. On my left is where the incident happened, where the firefighters found it very difficult to move into the area to quench the fire. The fire that engulfed the area affected over 2,000 traders, with almost every shop in there left into ashes and the place now left bare. The new mayor for the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly has indicated that measures must be put in place to make sure that we avert a reoccurrence. In fact, when something of this sort happens again, that is the fire outbreak, if it happens again, we are able to curb it. And so one of the things that he has intended to do is to decongest the area. In fact, this place that you see formerly had traders all over the street. They were making sales over here on the street. But since Monday, when the KMA started the decongestion exercise, we've seen that there are no traders here, except for these preachers who are occupying just this space to preach, and then for some time they would have no other choice than to leave. But then we can say that the activity of the Kumasi mayor has yielded some positive results. As I speak to you, you can see that the place, unlike the usual days where you see very packed streets here, today it's very well eased with all the areas here coming into form as it should be ordinarily. There have been talks and some form of resistance by the traders who say that they would not allow the mayor to move them out of the place. While the first phase of the decongestion seemed to be positive or possible, the second phase, which would include the removal of the traders on the side, the edges of the market, the traders have already indicated their resistance, but we have heard from the KMA that says that it is going to remain firm and resolute in its commitment to make sure that the entire area is decongested, to make sure that when there is any form of incident, we are able to reach out on time. We'll do so well to speak to some of the traders who are here, but then let's paint a picture to you so that you can see clearly how the CBD looks like. Well decongested. The middle of the CBD, the streets of Edum, look well decongested. But then going forward, a lot more work must be done by the KMA to make sure that the edges are also decongested as well. That is to say that the traders occupying the edges are removed. I'd want to speak to some of the traders here. Mami, yati KMA say, enche ye ba be yimo efri ahanum say me person ka be hwe me camera ni mama me kakra moni KMA ya adwen se mo a mo wo nchenchen no ye nyimu emfri hanum say moni o mo nya adwen so a adentia.
Oh, good morning. The entire my emfri an say heya na ja yeti a ye de hwe yemba no an ye de support free ni say adwuma nye wo Ghana ase tike be sere wo mo ba be we ya yide komo mo aye me yentra ha komo mo aye me yentra ha say kakra wonde o ma ye nse ba bia ya ba ya hye ya on say ya free kwanim ene ya kwanim aye fe ne me nka na da but enche anka we die ke sere no say ko mfa ho ne maye anka ye nto ne nya kakra ka de fa hwe nkolai say school fees ni ade ti ya sere no say ko nya ya dom no me ntena nchen say ya naka enya kakra kakra mfa hwe ye man
na okase o mama emre kakra say nka mo mfa ntena na nka mo mfa nton mo ne manyina ba o kire say in China mo san so te no emwa KMA emwa edwa no se de be ya asem foforo bi say ya ebe ye din mo ne o mo nya adwen sa.
Oh, dada nyina ha na etie ene da bia ye pam ye say ya na ye e bon so etimi tu ye kola na ye ni kwa no ho biem but kakra ani stress say ye say ye ni ba bia akọ aha ahye ba bia nke be kwa ko wura na wa ahye central market nye ready baby kakra no so na wan so maju ti baby so ye benya baby amaye se market woman se anem yankwa tena wonya adwuma dia menyi ni se nke betena kwa mu ya se bi so mo baby a omo de be ma ya me akotena dia ne nke be kwa akotena but se on se etwa ye ni a ye ni baby a kobiem e kan enche ha ya na ye gise ye tena ti yesra ni se ncha de nam se baby anya ready market ni nya ready a hanso asaye we ni ti ke be sre no se nka ncha ya ode ya tena ye di ya ankasa ya reji ya ho ide ko me nsha hasa.
So what she has said briefly is that the central market is not ready, and then if they are to be moved out of here, they do not know where they would be sent to. She says that she's a mother, she's taking care of her children, and this is where she's been staying for years to make sales and then look after her children. So she's pleading with the KMA to allow them to at least stay over here. But she agrees that the repercussions are enormous, and that if they continue to stay here, if something happens again, it will be difficult for the KMA to resolve it. But then she's still pleading with the KMA boss to give them this space so that they can stay here and then continue to make their sales. And so this is still how the market looks like over here at Adum, and the traders who are applying the streets have been asked to move out of the place. I would want to look at the street.
And that was our citizen's microphone. Nana Boakye is still there. For some reason, we can't get his sound, but interesting conversation there, reflecting on the situation where some of the traders are saying, oh, let us remain here because, you know, the other place got burnt down and all of that. But to what extent shall we engage in illegality, so to speak? That's a question for the gods and for all of us. But let me now tell you about the Ghana Horticulture Expo 2025. The theme is Innovate, Transform, Sustain, driving growth in Ghana's horticultural sector. And it's an event coming off at the Accra International Conference Center. But joining us in the studio, we have Davies Kobo. He's president of FADGE and the 2009 National Best Farmer. We also have Alex Dazoa of the Ghana Export Promotions Authority. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Congratulations to you, of course.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Past achievements, but still very relevant. For you to have got to that level is no mean feat. But let me start from you.
Yes, sir.
Tell us a bit about this Horticulture Expo. What is it all about?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting us. From the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, as you may well be aware, is the national agency responsible for the promotion of Ghanaian exports. And Ghanaian exports include many products. One of the leading ones being horticultural products. Amongst the horticultural products, we have pineapple, generally the fruits and vegetables, which is one of the key subsectors of our non-traditional exports. And Ghana is noted for exporting quality horticultural products over the years. And we want now to refocus attention to the sector to enable it even accelerate its development. We have been attending a lot of international expos in the horticultural space for many years. Working together with the FADGE, we decided that we should be inward-looking now to see whether we can attract same attention that has been given to us when we travel abroad to participate in other international expos, if we do organize those also internally. So generally, that's the objective of the show. And this is the second edition. The first one was held last year, and it was launched, the second edition was launched recently. It was also launched at the sidelines of our participation in the Fruit Logistica Show in Germany. As I said, the objective is to increasingly put a lot of emphasis and attention on Ghanaian horticultural sector and to attract more investments into the sector.
All right. How does FADGE come into all of this? Just walk us through how you are partnering to bring this to bear.
Okay, so thank you very much, and let me also take this opportunity to say good morning to your cherished viewers.
Yes, so FAGE, our main aim is to stimulate export through capacity building, trade shows, arranging affordable funding, and also promoting of non-traditional crops. And as you rightly said, our mother agency under Ministry of Trade is the Ghana Export Promotion Authority. So we collaborate in so many ways doing other things. For instance, he just mentioned through logistical. So we've been attending fairs for the past 30 years where they fund the FAGE as a private sector champions. Recently, in our last fair, for just 3 days, we make a deal over $200 million, which tells you that the horticulture sector is growing by the day. So there was a reason for us to be able to make sure that we stimulate it by also having some sort of looking in-house to also stage this horticulture fair for others to also join and also learn and showcase their products, hence FAGE involvement. So like he rightly said, we've been working hand in hand. We've been collaborating in so many ways. And as a mother agency and also for the private sector, there was a need for us to do that. So that's what we've been doing.
Just a quick one. You've been a national best farmer, so you must have very good appreciation of the space. When you look at the horticultural setup in Ghana, how solid is it? How strong is it? And how do you think this expo, for example, can empower the sector?
I think it's evolved because if you look at where we began and our current state of the horticulture sector, it's been very, very, very vibrant. And not to say that we don't need others to also invest. I mean, we have a lot of infrastructure deficits and other things where financial deficits. For instance, for us in FAGE, we try to blend the production ecosystem and also the export, because if you don't have the produce, what do you export? And that has been our bane. So it's been evolving for the past years, and as it stands now, we are in a place where we can wholeheartedly say, look, we are able to export, like Mr. Jazawa said, grade 1 produce outside the country to rake in a lot of foreign exchange. If you look at yam, for instance, yam is, for the whole world, we are leading. We are doing $54 million a year to the U.S. market, second by Jamaica, that's doing also doing about 52 million. If you talk about quality, we are there. If you also talk about SPS issues, phyto, I think we've been able to match the world to be able to penetrate with our quality. So these are some of the things. But like I said, the only challenges we have is the affordable funding and also the infrastructure deficit. And for markets, I think recently you are aware of President Trump's 10% tariff. So we are looking at the aftermarket. But the issue here is logistics, because if I'm sending something to Kenya, I have to go 60 days. I have to go all the way to Europe before coming back to Kenya. Nigeria, just 2 days, it's the same thing. So these are the bottlenecks which I think that the Horticulture Expo will help unveil and also resolve. And that's the more reason we are bringing a lot of people. We have a lot of panelists who are coming to discuss issues bordering the horticulture sector and the way forward.
All right. For you, Alex, coming to you, the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, you are at the forefront of this. What are you hoping in the end will be the boons, the real effects, impact that this expo will yield?
Well, the real impact should be increased exports of all the variety of the horticultural products that we have.
Are there any specific targets? Are there any top priorities for you?
Yeah, the top priorities would be we want to see a lot more investments in the pineapple industry to revive it, because we used to be the #1 in the world supplier of pineapples. We're still there, but the challenge has been production, as Mr. Kobo has alluded to. So the idea is to attract more investments into the sector in terms of infrastructural development, irrigation schemes, and better ways of doing farming, the production aspects, the supply side constraints, and issues like that. We want to bring it to the fore, even though GEPA has been doing its bits over the years, but funding has always been a challenge, a deficit in that area. So the fact that we are doing it at home implies that we want to ask people from outside to come and look at the sector as we have it now, to see if investments can be brought in rapidly to turn the sector around. We are looking for joint ventureships. Fitch and its members have very good plans that they have, but the funding gap is always a challenge. We've been talking to a few financial institutions in the recent past. Banks like the ADB and a few others have expressed interest to deploy more funding into the sector. So through the expo, the idea is that we want to see more buyers come into the country, gauge the atmosphere, because we always take the product to them. So they don't really know where it's coming from. And that may also even affect confidence in the quality that we present to the world. Even though I wouldn't say that we present less quality, it's always there. But when they come and they see it themselves, then they know that, oh, this is really where we are taking the products from. And then that confidence will be boosted.
All right.
Through that, with increased exports and revenues will come into the country.
Coming to you as we get ready to wind down on the conversation, who can participate? Whom are you targeting to be the key beneficiaries?
So currently, we are targeting to have over 200 exhibitors and over 2,000 trade visitors. And
over 200 exhibitors?
Yes.
And over 2,000
trade visitors.
Okay.
So anybody at all can walk in. We're looking at the producers, the processors, agro-input dealers, the banks, the financial, even our MMDCs will also participate, because the issue here is, are you able to create jobs in your local community?
I'm sure even the media, we can also come and learn.
Yes, yes, you can come and learn and also participate, where people get to know what you do and the likes. We will also extend a lot of invitation to our students, because they're youth. We think that government can do it all by providing jobs for everybody. So in the case of where maybe you complete school, we don't want to see and hear this unemployment graduate association. But you can start doing something on your own. That's the more reason why we are also invited there. The 24-hour economy will be there. We are hoping to get the president for the first day, the ministers, and also anybody at all is invited. We are inviting the whole Ghana. We are inviting people from the globe, the embassies to participate.
All right. Final words, and also include where is it happening?
Yes, exactly. It's happening from the 11th to the 13th of June. 11th to the 13th of June at the Accra International Conference Center. We'll set up beautiful canopies and booths there for everybody. As he said, we are targeting 200 exhibitors. It could be a bit more than that, depending on the demand. So we are expecting traffic to be driven to the AICC in the first week and second week of June.
All right. Thank you. Final words, very final.
Yes,
words.
So we are not expecting only those into the horticulture industry. Anybody at all can also come and exhibit, because it's a one-stop shop for people to market their products and also to make sure that they get the market for it.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining the conversation. And of course, it's all about the Ghana Horticulture Expo 2025. The theme is Innovate, Transform, and Sustain, driving growth in Ghana's horticultural sector. The venue is the Accra International Conference Center between the 11th and the 13th of June, 2025. Those who joined us, David Kobo is president of Fitch and 2009 National Best Farmer, and Alex Dadzawa, he's with the Ghana Export Promotions Authority. Coming up next, we have the sweet, we have the sassy, we have the other S word I can't use. It's E-Corner with Noella Karen Yale. You see her with her ripped jeans and, some black and white or the oba. You don't want to miss that. Noella Karen Yale up next Tuesday.
So I'm not sure I'm the only one who is wishing that we get a holiday every Thursday, because I absolutely enjoyed myself yesterday. And it's even more exciting that today is Friday. I get to come on your screens. We get to have fun. We get to sip some teas. And speaking about teas, we've got some really hot ones coming up right here on your favorite show. It's E-Corner on Joy News. Of course, it's still the AM show, but it's now time for E-Corner with me, Noella Karen Yale. Right after this, we get started. All right, you're welcome back. It's E-Corner right here on your favorite AM show. And like I said, we're going to get straight into our stories. I'm going to start on a high note. And I say a high note because this story broke, I think, in the middle of the week. But it has got, you know, some conversations going on social media. It's about Shatta Wale. Obviously, Shatta Wale is always in the news. But later this week, surprisingly, we saw him post something, or some sort of like an apology, a retraction on social media. And we were quite surprised, but it was an apology to his former manager, Bulgard, over some false murder allegations he leveled against him. And so for those of you who do not know who I'm talking about, well, that's Bulgard on your screen. He's an artist manager, like I said, has managed quite a number of, you know, musicians, including Shatta Wale himself. But let me take you back to 2022, where we don't really know what happened, because if you followed both these individuals, you would know, or you would agree with me when I say that they have some sort of like a bittersweet relationship. They're brothers today, tomorrow they're not so much of brothers. You know, I can also describe them as enemies, but they have a very, you know, bittersweet relationship. And so we saw Bulgard obviously share on social media a certain track list that was purported to be a GOG album. GOG album was Shatta's, at the time, most anticipated album. And a lot of people were really looking forward to him releasing the album. He was never releasing it. People were guessing who is he going to feature on. And so really a lot of people were anticipating the album. And so when he released that track list, it got a lot of people thinking or saying that he had leaked, Bulgard had leaked Shatta's, you know, most anticipated GOG album. And I guess maybe there was some truth to it, because it affected Shatta so much so that he came on social media, went on live, had a lot of unprintable things to say about Bulgard. And one of them was the fact that he accused him of having a hand in the death of the late Fenwick Ottery. Fenwick Ottery was an artist manager as well. And that was quite, you know, a serious allegation. And so Bulldog took it up, sued him. They went to court. I guess the courts decided that, look, both of you are brothers, and so you should settle this out of court. But then there were certain stipulations, there were certain things that needed to be done, certain demands that needed to be done or honored. And I guess Shatta did not. And so that necessitated Bulgard to, you know, sue Shatta again. And that was the last I heard of it until this apology. So let's quickly read the apology, and then we get a reaction from Bulgard, who is live with us on Zoom. And so if I can get the statement on screen, I'd quickly read that apology by Shatta Wale. So that's what you're seeing on your screens. Unfortunately, I can't really read it because it's a bit further. But yeah, let's now go to Bulgard and get a reaction from him. Hi, Bulgard. I can't hear you. Can you unmute for me? Hello? Uh-oh. All right. So while he tries to figure... Hello? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Bul.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, love.
Awesome. So I'm sure you, as well as all of us, like all of us, have seen that retraction and apology shared by your former artist Shatta Wale on social media. First of all, what do you make of it? Or how do you react to it?
What I'm going to say is thank you to my legal team, you know, that made it possible. You know, I heard you giving a history or a background of what really transpired. You know, so I want to really say thank you to my legal team, starting with
Okay, so obviously we're losing Bulgod. Obviously, Bulgod, if you can hear me, kindly rejoin. We're losing you. It's the internet. Obviously, we work with, you know, networks and stuff, and so yeah. But okay, I think he's back. Is he? Hi, Bulgod. Can you hear me? Okay. We're still losing him. I'm sure he's going to join pretty shortly. But basically, we're having a conversation about him, getting his reaction to that retraction and apology by Shatta Wale over an allegation, you know, a murder allegation he leveled against Bulgod. It was about a certain artist manager called Fenwick Ochre. I mean, he made other stuff. Okay, so Bulgod is back, I understand. So let's just go back to him and quickly get his reaction. Boo, you were saying?
I'm saying that I'll say thank you to my legal team. You know, they made this possible. You know, and I want to say thank you to lawyers from SAI.
Okay.
Yes, lawyers from SAI is now the
Deputy Attorney General.
Deputy Attorney General for Ghana.
Right.
Yes. I also want to say thank you to my brother and my legal counsel is like my best friend. He pushed for the execution of this one. It's called Lawyer Cephas Boyo.
Okay.
Or at Boyo at Law with the whole team at Boyo at Law.
But Boo, not to cut you, I mean, the last I heard you talk about this issue, if my memory serves me right, you were expecting some payment, some settlement, especially because, okay, go ahead.
No. Okay, so the money involved, the original suit was 1 million Ghana cedis, right?
Okay.
When Shatta's legal team came to say that they want to settle this out of court, you know, we sat down with a number of people in the industry, in the space, a lot of people, A+, some chiefs, and you know, some my big people from Nima and everything. And I said, okay, he's my brother. I can always take out the case. Now, there's only one condition. Actually, two conditions I'm looking out for: an apology, and he pays my legal fees.
Right.
So basically, the money involved in this whole matter was for my legal fees, right? Because it will not defame me for me to now go and pay my own legal fees, right? If I'm taking it out of court, if I'm saying that, hey, we are brothers, there's no need to go back and forth. At least the decent thing to do is to try and sort out the legal aspect of the whole situation, you know? So that's what we had. So the legal fees were supposed to be 100,000 Ghana cedis, you know, and that would to my lawyers, right? So that's the money involved, not money for me or anything. I don't want to know about the money.
So has that money been paid to your legal team?
My legal team is working that out. You know?
Okay.
So the apology came, I think, on Wednesday. So the legal team, Cephas Boyo and his whole team are on it, and I'm sure they will sort that out too, because they need to be paid for their work. You know, that's basically it. Yeah.
Okay. But beyond the apology, where does, you know, this whole experience leave your relationship with Shatta?
He's not an enemy, right? I mean, he's somebody that I've worked with, somebody that I love, someone that there will be no point that I'll wish him anything but success. So it won't change how I feel about him or how I felt about him. You know, once we cross paths, that's how I believe. Once anybody cross paths with you in life, there's a purpose for that.
Right.
You know, sometimes the purpose might not go the way you intended to go, but God knows best. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So, there's nothing really. There's no bad blood. I mean, there's always love. You know. So that's basically what I'll say about that. Yeah.
Boo, thank you so much for speaking to us. Pardon me for waking you up this early in the morning.
All right. I also want to say a big thank you to my wife. you know, and
Right.
my kids, they've been through hell, this, and you know, and they've been very, very troubled and traumatized with this whole situation. You know, I want to thank them for standing by me, you know, not them alone. Every other person that prayed and supported me through this, and thank you for your love and support as well.
You're welcome. You're welcome, always. Thank you too. All right, so that was Bull God. Bull God is the former artist manager for Shatta Wale. He's an artist manager also, a pundit as well. And he was reacting to Shatta Wale finally retracting and apologizing to him over a false murder allegation he had leveled against him. And I'm talking, the person we're talking about was the late Fenwick Ochre. Now, that being said, I need to wrap up quickly, but let me share with you an update on the Osinachi story. I'm sure you've heard about it. If you haven't, well, Osinachi was a Nigerian, you know, gospel musician. A lot of people loved her. She has a very popular song, Ekueme, Ekueme. That's her on your screens. And in 2022, you know, we heard that she had passed from lung cancer. And I mean, it was quite sad. It was a sad story when it broke. And then all of a sudden we saw that her brother had filed a homicide police report against her spouse or her husband. And apparently the story was that he had subjected her to domestic violence, beat her up almost every now and then, compare, lock her in the house and all of that. And so she had died from a lot of sadness and a lot of internal bleeding and not lung cancer. Well, they took that case went on trial, I should say. And finally, he has been sentenced to death by hanging. It's a good, not so good story. It's sad, but yeah, I guess it's well-deserved if you ask me. But anyway, if you are wondering, or you're still wondering who I'm talking about, well, this is the woman I'm talking about. I mean, very spirited, you know, singer, if you ask me. A lot of talent. She could not explore everything and, you know, sadly had to die. Anyway, that's it. On that sad note, that's it for E-Corner. I had one last story, but yeah, time is not on our side today as well. And so we say bye-bye to you here on E-Corner. But listen, coming up next is Ghana Grows, Changing Narratives, brought to you by MasterCard Foundation in collaboration with Springboard Roadshow Foundation. It's live right here on Joy News. Do not tune off. I'm Noella Karaniali. Stay absolutely fabulous, and I'll see you next week, okay? Mwah.